North London is red and Postecoglou is feeling blue. Here's what Gunners legend Emmanuel Petit thinks Spurs need to do.
Something has broken into this team, so you cannot sack all the players. So you have to make the easiest decision, which is the sack of the manager. I'm sorry to say that because I don't like saying that.
Mikel Arteta's side piled the pain on their derby rivals after they came from behind to win 2-1 at the Emirates. Ange knows it's not good enough.
Tonight, especially in that first 45, we were way too, like I said, way too passive, and that's not acceptable. And then when you do that, then these kind of things creep in.
But Declan Rice thinks his side should have scored just a few more.
We could have probably had 10 tonight, and that's the God's honest truth.
Arsenal are back within 4 points of leaders Liverpool, but it's Newcastle who are the informed team.
Newcastle 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, and it's 9 wins in a row for Newcastle. 9 goals in 8 games for Alexander-Arnold, which takes them rightly, as you say, Adrian, to 4th place in the Premier League.
Elsewhere, Crystal Palace goals from Jean-Philippe Mateta and Mark Gahey inflicted a 6th straight defeat on Leicester. Is Ruud van Nistelrooy's time running out? David Moyes' big Everton homecoming didn't quite go to plan. Ollie Watkins scored the only goal for Villa to spoil his party. Much to work on.
We need to create even more than that. But what you do need, and when the games are really tight and there's very little between the teams on the right, you might need to take your moment. And we didn't quite take our moment tonight.
And is this another false start for Man United or the beginning of a new age? They haven't had a league win for a month, but they did just beat Arsenal in the FA Cup and drew at Liverpool before that. Ruben Amorim had this to say as they face bottom side Southampton tonight.
People expect us to win, and that changes things. When you have the pressure to win, that is the pressure that we want. And sometimes it's harder to cope with that pressure, because against Arsenal and Liverpool, no one was expecting us to beat that teams.
We're across all the Premier League action from 7 p.m. on talkSPORT. And for more reaction on the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight announcement, head to the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Emmanuel Petit, and we are live on talkSPORT. So Arsenal beat Tottenham 2-1 in the North London derby. Does it breathe new life into their title chase? Can Postecoglou arrest the Spurs slide? Meantime, a losing start in David Moyes' Everton homecoming. Can they bargain for what's come to their rescue before? 3 teams worse than us. Also today, we bring you the very latest transfer news. Should you be able to negotiate your own punishment? Are Newcastle sweeping towards the Champions League again? Communication from owners. Are you damned if you do and damned if you don't? And from midday, we talk boxing with fight pundit Spencer Oliver. This is Jim White, Simon Jordan and Monsieur Emmanuel Petit, and we are live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
And it is bonjour et bienvenue, Monsieur Emmanuel Petit.
Bonjour. Good morning, guys.
Good morning to you. We haven't seen you since Germany in the Euros. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Great to see you. Emmanuel was on co-commentary duty for talkSPORT last night.
Very good.
At the North London derby. And we're about to get right into that. What were you doing last night?
Well, he will be, if having listened to Emmanuel and done shows with him during the Euros, you'll get objective opinions, unlike his teammate Martin Keown. You'll get subjective opinions. So.
I told you. I thought it would be seconds. We'd
You
be
had,
into
you
the
had
show.
an argument with him, no? Right?
Well, not an argument. It certainly wasn't a meeting of the minds. But basically, Martin can't see past the end of his nose when it comes to Arsenal. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's right in front of you and it's bleeding obvious, Martin will still say, "Oh, it's nothing to do with Arsenal. Arsenal or this and Arsenal or that."
So it's private.
Having said that, Arsenal fans love Martin Keown.
Yes,
Arsenal fans love you, and you were back last night. I mean, how did it feel being back?
So it's a big pleasure, to go back to the Emirates, to see the Arsenal people, and I feel very linked with the past, for everything I've done so far with them, and I'm so grateful, to be part of the Arsenal history. I stay only 3 years over there, and people reminds me those years like I was there for 10 years, and this is why I love English football, for the passion, but for the link and the reaction from the fans as well. Yesterday it was brilliant.
Yeah, well, they never forget what you did.
Me too.
And you too. But here's the thing, and I didn't know this, Simon, until this morning. Are you prepared to tell this story, Monsieur Petit? The story goes that it could well have been the other side last night.
Yes.
That you ended up playing for. It could well have been Tottenham. What happened?
I have to be fair and honest about that. When I first came, at Tottenham, I knew that it was a big rivalry between the two clubs. But I had a meeting in the morning in June, I think 1997. It lasted probably 90 minutes. And after that, they asked me if I wanted a cab to go somewhere else. And I said, yeah, of course. And they paid for the cab. So I heard after that the cab driver told them where I was going, and I was going to Arsene Wenger home, and I met Arsene and Mr. Dean over there.
So Tottenham paid for your cab?
Yes.
And had you agreed to join Tottenham?
Well, I said to them that I appreciate the meeting, and I have to think about it, but I have to be honest again. After the meeting I had with Arsene and Mr. Dean, it was completely different, the vibes and the contract as well.
Who did you meet at Tottenham, Alan?
I think it was Alan Sugar. Yeah.
Well, that explains it then.
Yeah, I don't know. And so I took my decision straight away after the meeting with Arsene, and he was my manager. He brought me, in the first team when I was in the academy with Monaco when I was a young player. So
of course, yeah.
I had a really strong relationship with him at the beginning. So, and I really love Arsene, and Mr. Dean as well was very sweet with me. So I decided straight away after a couple of minutes, okay, I will sign for you.
At any time since then, have you ever thought, I wonder if I should have gone to Tottenham? Have you ever thought?
No, really.
No.
No. No. I'm honest with you. Not really. No, not a single second.
Brilliant. I wonder what Alan Sugar thought around it. You know Sugar well. I mean,
I do.
Does he take that kind of thing on the chin?
Does Alan take slights? Not particularly. I mean, I did a TV thing with him recently where he had great delight in telling me that he made £50 million out of football, and you, my old son, was £50 million out of football. So I'm delighted to hear it when a situation with Sugar gets turned over. Hello, Alan.
Brilliant. Emmanuel, I love that. It's sort of rubbing salt into the wounds of Tottenham fans this morning, I'm afraid to say, because they would have loved you. Of that, there is no doubt. What did you think last night? How do you reflect on that North London derby?
Big games, The pressure was huge before the game on the players' shoulders and as well on Arteta. So they knew that because of the result between Nottingham and Liverpool, they could reduce the gap with them, and keep the chance, to fight for the title race. So the pressure was amazing before the game. So it was a must-win game, definitely. That's what I said before the game. If I was in the dressing room with the players, I would say to my teammates, guys, I don't care how we play today. We just need to win. We just need to get the 3 points.
Yeah.
Whatever happened on the pitch.
Yeah. Do you think last night's result, Arsenal beating Tottenham, Emmanuel, breathes new life into Arsenal's title challenge?
It brings hopes, They still have a chance, to compete for that. But I think Liverpool have their destiny in their hand, and they still have one game to play against Everton, a big derby as well. But more games are coming soon with the Champions League back. So, I mean, it's a long way to go, to win the Premier League. By experience, I know that it doesn't matter if you're second or third. You still have a chance, to do something, because in Premier League, everything goes so fast. Look what happened yesterday in the first half. In space of 5 minutes, they changed the game, the Gunners, just before the halftime. So we could see that, every single weekend in the Premier League. So, I mean...
Do they have the look, though? Because I don't think they have a look of a Premier League winning side. I look at them and I think, OK, I mean, as a central midfielder, you must have wanted to strangle Basuma yesterday, giving the ball away so easily to get to allow Arsenal's second goal to be created. But do they feel I mean, you've been in a dressing room, you've seen what it looks like. You're not in this dressing room, I know. But do they look like they have a Premier League winning sort of side on the field? Because they look like Saka gone... The air's gone out of them. Havertz is looking like what I think he is anyway, which is not a natural goal scorer. What do you think?
I agree. Totally agree with you. I think yesterday it was not a great Arsenal team, and they won the game against a poor Tottenham team. That means if they had to play against a better team yesterday, I'm pretty sure they would have not win that game. So they won it. Thank you very much. But at the end of the day, I think they still miss some big players, to change the game somewhere, And I really know by experience that you have to focus every single game. Don't focus on Liverpool. Try to improve,
do what you can
some areas where you are weak, especially up front, the last third of the pitch, You have to be more clinical, Look, yesterday, Declan Rice said it after the game.
What about Tim?
Yes. So... It doesn't work like that, in football. When the opportunities come, you have to score.
Yeah. I mean, when I think of you and Arsenal fans listening this morning, and many of you messaging in this morning, and we'll get to them, but when you played, you strike, Anelka, Henry, Bergkamp, Ian Wright in the past. Are you amazed, Emmanuel, that the one glaring whole weakness in the Arsenal side is still this lack of striker?
This problem has been on the table for years now. And since Arteta took over, as a manager, they spent around £8 million, in space of 6 years, something like that. So that means more than 100 million per season. Declan Rice is a top midfielder, one of the best in his position in the world. How much it cost? More than £100 million.
Yeah.
Which means if you want to reach the next step, I'm sorry to say that, and I'm quite annoyed, sometimes by the sport direction of top clubs, They only want to spend money on young players, improve them, sell them, and take the money. They are only focused actually on being qualified, for the Champions League. They don't think about winning title anymore. They just want to win money. That means for me, it's against, what the fans and players think, We want to win trophy. We want to be part of the history. And that's why I think they have the money, to compete against top clubs, Arsenal, and sometimes they do. But this problem, the number 9 position, has been on the table for years, and they have to solve it as soon as possible, because if they want to reach the next step, for me, you have to buy a striker, a proper striker.
What do you think of Rio Ferdinand's suggestion last night? Get a hold of 37-year-old Karim Benzema. Get him on loan for 6 months.
37 years old, so he's been to Saudi Arabia for 3 years now, 4 years?
Yeah, he went there in 2023, so not that long.
I was wondering why did Deschamps call back, I can't remember his name, the midfield player who played for Chelsea. For the national team. Kante, yeah. And he did great, during the Euro. So the style of Benzema, the technical skills, intelligence of movement, I think that could suit perfectly with Arsenal. But would it be the answer, for the main problem? I don't think so, because, as I said, the like of Martinelli, Trossard scored yesterday. Look at Sterling. He looks like a ghost. So Saka won't be back on the pitch within the next couple of weeks. So I'm not sure that the situation will be solved only with Benzema.
I see. What about Tottenham? Let's get to it. The other side of this break, we're going to get the very frank and forthright view of Emmanuel on Tottenham Hotspur, where they are at the moment under Ange Postecoglou. We'll get to that. And it's a bit of a treat for Arsenal fans. You won last night, and that's why we were so happy that Emmanuel could make it in here this morning. What an opportunity for you this morning to speak to an Arsenal legend. Last night, they won it, but how much new life does it breathe into the Arsenal title chase? Give us a call on that if you wish. 03717 22 3344. Not only might you get the chance to speak to Simon, you can speak to Emmanuel as well. We'd be do about that. 81089 if you want to send a message. A lot going on out there, and we're right across it. morning, everybody. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Emmanuel Petit, and we are live right here in studio on the 17th floor of the news building right beside London Bridge, the morning after the night before. And the night before saw the North London derby and saw Arsenal come out on top by 2-1. With Emmanuel in town, we're talking Arsenal, of course we are, and we're going to take some calls in about 10-15 minutes, because so many of you are calling in. You want to get to the man, you want to make points to Simon as well. So we're going to go some way towards achieving that. 03717 223344. But it was defeat for Tottenham last night, and Tottenham at the moment, in an area of doldrums, you would say. This was Tottenham's 6th Premier League defeat in 8 matches. A win for Manchester United tonight will drop them into 14th. Post-match, this was Ange Postecoglou.
Well, you got no choice. You just got to, there's no magic cure here. You got to get up tomorrow and work hard and go into Sunday and prepare to, go into battle and turn around our fortunes in our season. I mean, there's nothing that's magical that's going to change this. There's always reasons for all these things to happen, but the reality of it is that our results and our form in the league has been nowhere near good enough, and that needs to change.
Emmanuel alongside Simon and myself this morning. Last night, Emmanuel, in co-commentary, you said Postecoglou should be sacked. You stand by that. Why?
Yeah, I feel sorry for him because of the injuries, so many big players, especially central defenders, and it changed, the DNA of the team. Can you imagine, Arsenal playing without Saliba and Gabriel, or Odegaard and Saka? And we've seen yesterday that Sterling cannot do the same job than the Saka. So I can understand that. But from the start of the season, there were not many, injuries in this team. And I've been watching Tottenham from the start of the season, and I'm not impressed at all by the way they play. I have no idea what Postecoglou wants to do with his players on the pitch, in which systems he wants to play. At the start of the season, I had a couple of ideas, especially with the fullback, they tried, to bring pressure inside on the pitch, but it disappeared straight away. So yesterday, I had the feeling that some players were lost on the pitch, without confidence, and if I take, for example, Son or Maddison, when he came on in the second half, they had no idea what to do when they had the ball, no link between the players, no character, no personality, things like this. So I think, okay, you got many players injured, especially in defense. That's an excuse. Is it an excuse that run for weeks and weeks? For me, it doesn't work like that, Something has to change. You cannot sack the players. So that's why I feel sorry, for the manager, because I think he's a decent man. He tried to do his best, with his players, but he's struggling because of the injuries. But for me, you cannot hide behind this excuse. You have to change something. Good manager, great manager, sometimes adapt themselves, through the troubles and find a solution. They try to impulse, something, some energy, some conviction, some motivation to the players, and I don't see that coming.
So you don't think that he should be the man for the job at Tottenham any longer?
Probably I will give him an extra time, probably until February, March, things like this. But look, every single weekend, Spurs are dropping on the table. So they are close to the relegation zone now. If they win a cup, though, Simon, that keeps them in a job, doesn't it?
You would think so. I mean, obviously, the desire is not to win a cup and finish mildly above the relegation zone, because that won't play well, because whatever commercial benefits you've got for winning the League Cup will be lost in merit payments.
I mean, do you agree with Emmanuel? He's on borrowed time now.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep on losing games, every manager's on borrowed time. If you look at the 23rd of November when they smashed Manchester City 4-0, things look rosy in the garden. And then you move from there and you look at results. I mean, I look at a lot of their results without trying to make excuses for Ange. And whilst the statistics read poorly, you look at the games and you think, well, there's a lot of draws in there. There's games that they've managed to implode on, certainly the Chelsea game when they were winning 2-0 and they managed to contrive to lose the game 4-3.
Yeah.
There's been games in there where they've beaten... I mean, I went to watch the quarter-final of the Cup against Man United, and what I saw was two very poor sides. I mean, the fact that Tottenham imploded in the second half with Fraser Foster in goal and decided to make Man United look vaguely credible because Man United were dreadful. But they won a cup quarter-final against Manchester United. They've smashed Southampton 5-0. There were some results in there. The challenge for me is you look at these players, and obviously Emmanuel will look at them with a far more educated eye than I. I look at players like Maddison, and I look at some of the signings, and I think Maddison's a good player. Technically, he's a good player, but do you win things with players like James Maddison? I look at some of the signings like Brennan Johnson and Timo Werner. And Timo Werner is a speedboat without a brain. I look at these guys and I think, how are Tottenham going to kick on as a football club?
Yeah.
Despite spending decent money on Solanke and decent money every single year now, you can't argue that Spurs are spending a few quid, but the side doesn't seem to change.
5 points, Simon, out of 27 since they beat Manchester City at the Etihad.
Yeah, statistically it's poor.
5 out of 27, Emmanuel.
It's terrible. I mean, I come back what I said, you know, when you look Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, City, you know exactly what they want to do on the pitch. And they had many injuries players as well for some clubs, you know, and they still play the same way. So I don't want to blame, I don't want to be too harsh, you know, on the manager, but I say it again. I don't know what he wants to do with his player.
I mean, statistics are the beginning of the conversation, not the end of it. I know they're the defining point. It wasn't so long ago that Newcastle were on a wobble, and there was potential people alluding to the fact that Eddie Howe was on borrowed time. They got beat at home by West Ham 2-0, and then all of a sudden, overnight, they've clicked. They've got players back.
Tottenham are 13th.
I know they are.
13th.
But they're also in the quarterfinal. They're in the semi-finals of the League Cup with a 1-0 win against Liverpool. They're in the FA Cup. They're also in the Europa League.
Right.
So, you know, they still have time to recover this season, but whether Ange Postecoglou still has the gravitas to achieve outcomes is a different discussion.
Emmanuel, I know you know the show, and I know you know what we do on it. We put it to the fans now, and we let them tell us what they think. So Tottenham fans getting in touch this morning, your chance to give us a call, speak to World Cup winner Emmanuel Petit and Simon alongside me. Would winning a cup negate what is happening to Tottenham in the league? Is it as simple as that? 03717 223344.
London is red and Postecoglou's feeling blue. Here's what Gunners legend Emmanuel Petit thinks Spurs need to do.
Something has broken into this team, so you cannot sack all the players. So you have to make the easiest decision, which is the sack of the manager. I'm sorry to say that because I don't like saying that.
Arsenal are back within 4 points of leaders Liverpool, but it's Newcastle who are the informed team.
Newcastle 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, and it's 9 wins in a row for Newcastle. 9 goals in 8 games for Alexander-Arnold, which takes them rightly, as you say, Adrian, to 4th place in the Premier League.
David Moyes' big Everton homecoming didn't quite go to plan. Ollie Watkins scored the only goal for Villa to spoil his party. Much to work on.
When the games are really tight and there's very little between the teams on the night, you might need to take your moment, and we didn't quite take our moment tonight.
And is this another false start for Man United or the beginning of a new age? They haven't had a league win for a month, but they did just beat Arsenal in the FA Cup and drew at Liverpool before that. Ruben Amorim had this to say as they face bottom side Southampton tonight.
When you have the pressure to win, that is the pressure that we want. And sometimes it's harder to cope with that pressure, because against Arsenal and Liverpool, no one was expecting us to beat that teams.
We're across all the Premier League action from 7 p.m. on talkSPORT.
Everybody, it is Thursday morning. Jim White, Simon Jordan and Emmanuel Petit, and we are all live on talkSPORT. So many of you watching the show on YouTube and Facebook, and of course we're improving all the picture output on that. So if you want to join those and the many who are watching at this stage, you can so. Head over to the official talkSPORT channel on those platforms. Many Tottenham fans calling in. I have to say, Emmanuel, you've just made Keith's day. He's driving in a lorry around London. He's a big Arsenal fan. I was chuckling, says Keith, at Emmanuel's story about talking to Tottenham, getting in a taxi, Tottenham paid for it, and then joining Arsenal. We love you, Emmanuel Petit, says Keith. Many Arsenal fans getting in touch, many Tottenham fans. Let's kick off, Simon, with Neil, the Arsenal fan, who's first up and wants to join us live. Neil, good morning. You happy you won the North London derby last night?
Yeah, well, we normally do, but I'm very happy about that. But yeah, I want to make 3 points. The first point I want to make is that during that period of time, I was a season ticket holder at Arsenal in the clock end, and I want to thank Emmanuel for some of the greatest days and evenings that we had as football fans. And I've got no regrets. And if Arsenal don't win anything from now on, which obviously I would be upset about, I was very fortunate to be there at that time.
Yeah.
One of the other points I want to make is that sometimes it goes under the radar how great our squad was and what Wenger had accumulated. We had players that were probably Category B players in France, not really heard of. Rémi Garde, Gilles Gramondi, Sylvain Wiltord, who was an international but not really got the run out at Arsenal. And they come into squads and never let us down. And I just feel we're so paper thin. We get 1 or 2 injuries now. We let Emmanuel Smith-Rowe go. We just don't seem to have any of that depth. I don't know if I totally believe in Arteta. Whether it's the financial constraints, I don't know. But under Emmanuel's time, there were so many unsung heroes that, and I'm sure he would agree, that the French guys come into that side, and it was just completely non-change. Of course, you missed the stars, but we had so many players that were not huge names, especially Gilles Gramondi, and he was never let us down at all.
Well, let's ask the man himself. There is Neil, and he's putting the point to you. Then you had real depth in talent. You had real depth in your squad.
I totally agree with this person. Thank you very much for what you said about me and my old teammates. And we all knew when we first came at Arsenal, back in days, that our manager was French, and we were a bunch of French players as well. So we had a huge responsibility, you know, on bringing something different in a British football, you know, and that's why the first thing we had to do is to put the ball on the grass, because all the time, you know, we had to see the ball in the air, and this is something that Arsene he used to scream at us all the time, saying that you need to bring the European style, you know, inside English football, but you need as well to adapt yourself into this mentality, to have the character and the personality, you know, to play. So that's why we try to learn all together as a bunch of team. And as well, we had to mix, you know, with all the English traditions, you know. That's why I think we've seen that during the 1998 double. We were a bunch of friends, and we were linked so strong together on the pitch, but outside as well. So we did it.
How'd you like that for an answer, Neil? Is Neil still with us? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still with you. Yeah. Yeah, it's you know, it was great to get some of the recognition for some of the real non-stars. But I think, believe in Arteta, and I'm sure we'll get a striker and we will win the league next year.
Well, Neil, on that, keep listening, because this is a point I'm going to put to Emmanuel right now. 5 years in to the Mikel Arteta project, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
How much pressure is he under to win something major, like the Premier League, like the Champions League?
I think it's important for him. It's important for the players as well, because when I'm very happy so far with Arteta, you know, with the job. I think since he took over, I think you could see the improvement of the team individually, but collectively as well. I think step by step, you know, Arsenal came back where they should be, you know, where they belong. And I think the reason why he needs and he has to win something is because of the motivation he has to stick with the players. Can you imagine at the end of the season, if they don't win anything, what kind of communication could he get, you know, with the players at the end of the season for the next season? I mean, do you think he will say to the players, stick on what we do for the last few years, believe in what I say and what I try to do with the pitch, the style of football we want to bring on the pitch, but at the end of the day, we don't win anything. So that means if you're players, you're still asking yourself some questions, thinking, okay, we've been following you for years and we love you, we love the way we play, we believe in what we're doing, but at the end of the day, we don't win anything. So in terms of motivation, I think this is something very important.
Winning is everything to you, isn't it? That's what comes over to me, Emmanuel.
This is what we do. We've been paid for that.
Winning.
You have to win. That means, that's what I said before. Football has changed so much. Maybe Simon will disagree with me. He was a great president at Crystal Palace. But I think sometimes there is a differences between what people think in the board and people who are on the pitch. I know that football has changed so much, the mentality as well. The players have changed so much as well, their mentality.
Yeah.
Most of them, they only think about the money. They don't think about winning titles. And fans, they only think about winning titles. But back in days, we were only focused on winning titles. Money comes afterwards. We already get the money, you know, on the pay rise every single month. So I just wanted, and my old teammates we were all the same. We were all thinking the same things. We wanted to make history. I think it's like ego, you know. But when you retired, you want to be remembered like that, you know. Not the amount of money you have in your bank account, but the title you win.
This is music to your ears, is it not?
I think it's the same in the boardroom. I think that most people that own football clubs have been winners in other spheres.
You think so, Simon?
Well, I think most people that get to own a football club have had to win something in their life. They've had to have a level of success, so they know the difference between winning and losing, being an achiever but going into football is a very different dynamic. Unless you're going to have immense wealth and you're going to be prepared to concentrate that wealth in an endless pursuit like Abramovich did. Mm-hmm. Abramovich didn't really care about the financial ramifications of Chelsea and how much it was costing him. For whatever motivation he had, he poured money in to be successful. Managers came through the door. If they weren't successful enough, out they went. And some people would suggest that's an unpalatable way to operate. Ancelotti wasn't unsuccessful, but he's still got the sack, and so on and so forth. But I think it's a very different dynamic. Players will understand their world. They will understand it very clearly. It's very easy to define what a winner is. That's the guy that stands on the podium.
Yeah.
as a football club owner, there are certain football clubs that you can't win with. I could not elevate, no matter how much I tried, Crystal Palace to be Arsenal. Because the scale of the clubs, the heritage of the clubs, the legacy of the clubs. Now Arteta wants to win, and this team will follow him and keep on following him. But if it comes to the point, if Arsenal finish second in the league this year, which is potentially likely, I don't think they win the Champions League. I think they're going to struggle to win the League Cup. They're out of the FA Cup, so they could come out with absolutely nothing. But if his team are still progressing, then no one in the boardroom is going to sack Arteta because he hasn't won the league.
I know, but
if
you finish always second every single season,
you're first loser.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Agreed.
So at the end of the day, the players will ask themselves, listen, we're quite tired, you know. We've been believing in you and on the work you're doing.
Do you think the mentality of Liverpool as a football club was defined in losing for 30 years when they didn't win a Premier League?
No.
But they didn't win a Premier League for 30 years. And so Liverpool as a football club with all this heritage...
But they won Champions Leagues in that time.
Sure, but the Premier League is I get that. And Arsenal have won FA Cups under Arteta's time.
Right.
But the blueprint for Arsenal is not FA Cups. It's Premier Leagues and Champions League.
Sure.
Not that they've won a Champions League.
Sure.
So Liverpool, if you compare the mentality of what is a winner and what is a loser, it's not quite as binary as that. It is in the end when you've got a gold medal. The gold medal is the winner. But winning is sometimes relative to the club that you have. In Arsenal's DNA, Liverpool's DNA, Man United's DNA, the only thing to win is to be first.
You're not having that?
Well, yes, maybe somewhere I agree with you, but as I said, I think football changed too much, and competitions as well, and
that's money, isn't it?
Champions League qualification as well. You know, I remember, the participation of it. I think back in days, if you wanted to play Champions League, you had to finish champions.
But
that means you have to win the trophy.
But Emmanuel, your manager, the man that you would doff your cap to repeatedly, who brought you to Arsenal, became a participation manager. He became a manager that's function at Arsenal was to get Arsenal in the top four. So a winner, do you think Arsene Wenger is a loser?
No.
But then he wasn't winning. He was participating.
At the beginning, he was winning a lot of trophies. But then the football changed, competition changed, and now you don't have to win the Premier League if you want to participate to the Champions League.
But that doesn't make everybody else that doesn't win a loser then, does it?
No, but you know what I mean.
I do.
So you're playing on the words now.
No, I'm just...
No, I mean, for me, it's simple. If you want to do that, you have to win. It's simple as that.
Agreed.
That was the case, back in days. Now, it's like, okay, we can finish second, third, and fourth, and then we can participate to the Champions League, get the money from that, and we're happy for that. So the way the competition have changed for me is a disaster. Is a disaster for the winning mentality. This is my opinion.
I'm loving that. Loving it. And Arsenal fans listening to this, I'm looking at the messages. Music to our ears. What Petit is saying on your show this morning. Stay with us because we're going to take some calls from Tottenham fans. And obviously, your mood is somewhat different to that of Arsenal's this morning. Off the back of that North London defeat last night, Emmanuel Petit is with us live. Now then, competition time. We've been telling you all week we've got a couple of tickets to give away to the biggest show on earth, the Super Bowl. That's not all, though. The amazing prize includes flights from London, accommodation, and £5,000 to go with it. All you've got to do to get involved is text USA to 83338, and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter by post. Your chance to win: text USA to 83338. Order by post as well. Enter by post, I should say. We'll take care of the rest.
Entries cost £2 plus your standard network charges. Enter by 20th of January 2025 at 11 p.m. Alternatively, you can enter by post. Send your name, email address and contact details, including telephone number, to Super Bowl Competition, P.O. Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP. Postal entries must be received by 23rd of January by 5 p.m. 18 plus only from England, Scotland or Wales. You must have bill payers' permission. This is a news broadcasting network competition. Full terms and conditions at talkSPORT.com.
Bit of star quality in the show this morning. Well, every morning with Simon, of course. But French World Cup winner Emmanuel Petit is with us live in studio. The perfect time for Emmanuel, straight off the back of Arsenal winning the North London derby last night. But of course, somebody won and somebody lost, and the loser was Tottenham, and they're losing at the moment. This was Tottenham's 6th Premier League defeat in 8 matches. A win for Manchester United tonight, and they're playing Southampton. No disrespect to Southampton. We'll see them drop to 14th. Is it time up for Ange? And I think, Emmanuel, without pushing you into saying it almost is, it almost is. Many Tottenham fans giving us a call, and Emmanuel, with you in mind, they want to join us. Chaz is one of them. Chaz, good morning to you. Emmanuel's with me, and so too is Simon, of course. What is your take on where your team is at right now?
Right, so first of all, good morning, gentlemen, and hats off to Emmanuel. Absolute legend. It's difficult for me to say that. It does stick in my throat a bit, being a Spurs fan. But I wish I could have seen him in a white shirt. But anyway... great guy. My take on it, gents, is it's the end. It's the end. Death knell is ringing. It's awkward, but I feel actually ashamed at the moment of saying I support the club. Born in the area, 4 generations of support. Look at my grandchildren on a Monday morning. We don't know what to say. Last night was a great opportunity to beat, obviously, our prime football enemy. Who, they have their own injury issues, and quite frankly, recently I've been actually betting against my own team.
No,
so
Chaz, come on, really? You can win a cup. You could win a cup.
I'm a realist, and I thought I could make a few pennies on the side. But listen, tonight, as you said, Man United are likely to win, pushing us into 14th. I think that's as bad as it can get, really.
You're ashamed of your own side, and you're betting against them at the moment. Can you believe this? Yeah. Simon first, can you believe that?
Listen, I mean, it's an emotional sport, isn't it? And people throw in superlatives. I'm not entirely sure you should be ashamed of your side. You're in a cup semi-final. You're not doing very well in the league at this moment in time. You're in Europa League. You're in the 4th round of the FA Cup. You've got a brilliant stadium. You've got a lot of players that should be doing better. And if you need to change the manager, you need to change the manager. I don't think you should be ashamed of your club. And as far as betting against your club, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Oh, Chaz. I mean, come on.
Bang,
Chaz,
bang.
Here's Emmanuel.
Yeah, but, gents, I'm fed up hearing about it. It's a great stadium. Yes, it is. But a great training ground, great commercial acumen off the pitch. I don't care.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Chaz. But every time you hear a football manager tell you what he hasn't got, it starts with, I don't like the stadium. I don't think the training ground's good enough. I need investment in the facilities. So these things have been done, and there also has to be an investment in the side. I don't agree that the players that they've bought are good enough. I don't think Tino Werner on loan is a good signing. I don't think Brennan Johnson is a good signing. I think Solanke could be a good signing.
And he spent big money on Solanke.
Yeah, I mean, people say we spent big money on Solanke because he can get him cheap on the wages. Whatever they do, they'll find a reason why Daniel Levy's the devil incarnate.
Can you give Chaz, Emmanuel, any cause for optimism this morning?
Bring back injured players. I think this is the first step, and try to stick as a team, all together. Because at the moment, there is so many troubles, at Tottenham. I think you have to stick, you have to stay calm all together if you want to find a solution. But I have a question for this person. What do you think is the solution?
Chaz, here's the question. Emmanuel's asking you, where do you think the solution lies?
Okay, I think where we are at the moment, we do have a good squad. I do think we have a good squad. It's great to we have opportunity to improve on it. I think it's the coach. I really do. It's one-dimensional. I'm not the first person to say it. Devoid of tactical acumen and gamesmanship. You know, last year we got away with it. We thought, well, we could concede 3, but we'll go out and score 4. But the other coaches in the Premier League have got the measure of the way we play, and we just can't do that anymore. We need a change of coach.
Okay, and we've covered that. Chaz, thanks for that. Stephen, another Tottenham fan, you ashamed of your team at the moment? Are you ashamed of your club at the moment?
No,
do you
I'm not,
bet against them?
I will never be ashamed of my club. I love my club. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
By the way, gentlemen. Now, I've been a Spurs fan since 1970-71 season when the Woolwich Wanderers did the double. 10 years after Spurs did it for the first time in that 20th century. But I love my club. But the difference then and the difference now, when we won the League Cup that year, with Martin Shivers 2 goals at Wembley, beating Villa 2-0, we were in the top. We ended up 3rd in the table when Arsenal did the double in 71. We'd done it 10 years earlier, of course. And the difference now is we are 14th after United thrash Southampton tonight. We'll be 8 points off the relegation zone, effectively 9 because of our goal difference. But Ange Postecoglou, mate, you're on borrowed time. If we lose to Liverpool in that semi-final on February the 6th and then get knocked out by Aston Villa in the FA Cup, and then we don't qualify for the top 8 in the Europa League and go to the playoff which ends on the 20th of February, he is gone. Now, Daniel Levy, if you're listening, mate, I know you listen, get on the phone to Bournemouth FC now, make an offer that their manager can't refuse, get him at Tottenham, keep us up, because we are going down at this rate. I'll tell you that for a fact.
All right, Stephen, he's going down. Did they say Tottenham are going down at this rate?
It started off well. If you look at Tottenham's next 4 or 5 games, this will determine what happens with Ange Postecoglou. When they've got Everton next, they've got Hoffenheim in the league, in the Europa League. They've got Leicester, they've got Spurs in the Europa League, they've got Brentford, and they've got Liverpool. All of those games...
Affordable.
They're horrible games because you're expected to win them. And that means that Ange Postecoglou's future, I suspect, will be determined by those outcomes, because ultimately, if they don't win a lot of those games, and you'd expect them to beat Leicester because Leicester were poor last night against Palace, I suspect you'd expect them to get something at Everton, irrespective of the Moyes bounce, because they're toothless. They've got 2 Europa League games against 2 sides that are imminently beatable. And then they've got the FA Cup and a League Cup. Their future, Ange Postecoglou's future, will be determined by the next 6 games.
I agree.
Sure. Russ is a big Tottenham fan. Russ, good morning to you. So you lose the North London derby. You're waking up, you join us live on talkSPORT, and you're speaking to an Arsenal legend who is Emmanuel Petit. It's that kind of day, Russ, isn't it? Where's your head with your team? What are you thinking? Just lost his line. While we're getting Russ back, we can go to Daniel. Daniel, good morning. Same for you, mate. Emmanuel's with us. What's your take on where Tottenham are?
Morning, Jim. Morning, guys.
Morning, Daniel. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, I think the last 2 callers have just been absolutely pathetic. I mean, I think it's about time the fans got behind Postecoglou, got behind the players, got behind Daniel Levy, and just support your club. They are there. You know, we are there to support them. They are not there to support us, you know. I think we're still in the Carabao Cup. We've got a 1-0 lead.
Yeah.
We're still in the Europa League. We're in a good position there. We're not doing too well in the league, but, you know, we're not going to win the league anyway. So, you know, get behind the team and let's try and win a cup. I don't see the problem with that. He deserves time, you know.
You're being quite practical about it. I think that's sensible, isn't it?
This is a fan base that was turning itself inside out last season about how they would be preferring to lose to Manchester City or to Man City,
I remember.
So that Arsenal wouldn't win the league. The fans want to have a look at themselves as well. It's all well and good just pointing your finger at everybody else. The culture of that football club, if you've got an element of that fan base that was happier with Tottenham not being able to beat Manchester City so that Arsenal wouldn't win the league, then there's something fundamentally wrong with the core of that.
I remember very well, and I was shocked about that.
Yeah.
And so was the manager. And the manager was outraged by it. And the media tried to skewer him by saying, but this is a big game. He said, I don't care if it's a big game. I've got bigger games than Arsenal. I want to win something, not just beat Arsenal.
Sure. There's a message here. We have no leaders on the pitch. We need another Dave Mackay or Steve Perriman. Don't know if we find somebody like that. We're coming up to 11 o'clock with Emmanuel Petit with us live in the show.
North London is red and Postecoglou's feeling blue. Here's what Gunners legend Emmanuel Petit thinks Spurs need to do.
Something has broken into this team. So you cannot sack all the players. So you have to make the easiest decision, which is the sack of the manager. I'm sorry to say that because I don't like saying that.
Mikel Arteta's side piled the pain on their derby rivals after they came from behind to win 2-1 at the Emirates. Ange knows it's not good enough.
Tonight, especially in that first 45, we were way too, like I said, way too passive, and that's not acceptable. And then when you do that, then these kind of things creep in.
But Declan Rice thinks his side should have scored just a few more.
We could have probably had 10 tonight, and that's the God's honest truth.
Arsenal are back within 4 points of leaders Liverpool, but it's Newcastle who are the informed team.
Newcastle 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, and it's 9 wins in a row for Newcastle. 9 goals in 8 games for Alexander-Arnold, which takes them rightly, as you say, Adrian, to 4th place in the Premier League.
Elsewhere, Crystal Palace goals from Jean-Philippe Mateta and Mark Gahey inflicted a 6th straight defeat on Leicester. Is Ruud van Nistelrooy's time running out? David Moyes' big Everton homecoming didn't quite go to plan. Ollie Watkins scored the only goal for Villa to spoil his party. Much to work on.
We need to create even more than that. But what you do need, and when the games are really tight and there's very little between the teams on the night, you might need to take your moment. And we didn't quite take our moment tonight.
And is this another false start for Man United or the beginning of a new age? They haven't had a league win for a month, but they did just beat Arsenal in the FA Cup and drew at Liverpool before that. Ruben Amorim had this to say as they face bottom side Southampton tonight.
People expect us to win, and that changes things. And when you have the pressure to win, that is the pressure that we want. And sometimes it's harder to cope with that pressure, because against Arsenal and Liverpool, no one was expecting us to beat that teams.
We're across all the Premier League action from 7 p.m. on talkSPORT. And for more reaction on the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight announcement, head to the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel.
Good morning, everybody. Thursday morning, Thursday, January the 16th. Bit dull here in London. I hope it's good wherever you're listening all around the UK and beyond. The two of us have become the three of us this Thursday morning. It is Jim White, Simon Jordan, and French World Cup winner Emmanuel Petit. Arsenal legend, of course. Also played for Chelsea in his time. Many Chelsea fans getting in touch. We'll try and get some of the messages you're sending in to Emmanuel as well before we go. Emmanuel is with us for the next hour thereafter from 12 to 1. Spencer Oliver will join us and we will talk boxing. In the meantime, Emmanuel, when you heard David Moyes had gone back to Everton, did you think, yeah, good move, or where do you stand in that? Is it always dodgy going back?
It's very difficult to say, because it's like when you divorce with somebody and then you go back to the person 10 years after that. I don't like this idea. I don't like this feeling, especially in this environment, surrounding Everton. I think there is so many troubles on the pitch, but as well, they're thinking about building a new stadium. They are fighting against relegation. So I think they don't win games. They don't score goals. And we all know that if you want to save your skin, in the Premier League, you have to win games. That means you have to score goals. So the confidence is not there. And I think Everton has been flirting with the relegation zone for years now. So sooner or later, something's going to change, because it will happen.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I said that in the introduction. Can they bargain for what's to come to their rescue? 3 teams worse than us. Well, are there 3 teams worse than them this time around? David Moyes is back. David Moyes was in the technical area last night at Goodison as Everton took on Villa and lost by a single goal to 0. And this was Moyes post-match.
Look, ultimately, it's not just this one game tonight. It's been other games, which is certainly been the case. So I think it's there for everybody to see. It's not something that I've just come in and said we don't have. We're not quite good enough at finishing. And by the way, I can't magician all that to change. They just can't do it. I'm sure it's probably what Dicey was been talking about as well in his time as well. So we do need to bring in. I think we need to try and add to the squad if we can. But we've just got to be careful that we don't go too much really. But we'll try and see what we can do, definitely.
What's your take on that, Simon? After one game in charge and they lose it, I'm not a magician.
Well, I mean, it's stating the bleeding obvious. I mean, ultimately, he has the cachet of having been sought out by a new ownership model to perhaps have the ability to say things that maybe Sean Dyche didn't have. And it's clear. It's not, it doesn't require you or me or an analyst to look at Everton to say, well, I wonder what they need, right? We know what they need. They need someone who can put the ball on the back of the bleeding net. And they haven't got anybody. Calvert-Lewin is whatever he is. The boy up top, Beto, doesn't seem to create any outcomes for them. They're not good enough. So they're going to have to spend some money. I think, listen, it's always darkest before the dawn. There was a lot more opportunities for Everton than there has been in the last 2 or 3 years. The Moshiri ownership was a disaster for the last 3 years. The economic travails that have been put upon Everton have been because of bad management in the boardroom. The stadium is being built. They've got to get across the line. They've got to stay in the division. That's all they've got to do this year. Friedkin is not a slob. He is an economic powerhouse. And so by buying a Premier League football club and moving into a stadium that it's going to galvanise the club because it will increase the revenue opportunities. There'll be huge amounts of opportunity around that stadium. So I think the future right now is a lot brighter. Now, whether Moyes should have gone back, he changes the mood music. It's not just a case of Friedkin wanted Moyes back. They wanted him back on a number of occasions. And whether Dither and Dave didn't want to make decisions or opportunities weren't quite right for him at the time, he's now gone back to Everton. Now, he's not a magician. He isn't going to suddenly turn water into wine and the lame can walk and the blind can see. He's going to turn around and have to build something that's probably ugly on the eye. And if he's lucky enough, he might get a few quid. But who's going to want to go to Everton? Which highfalutin striker that's going to bag them 10, 15 goals in the next X amount of games is going to want to land at Everton? With respect to Everton. So he's got a bit of a bugger's muddle there, but he's a capable enough manager to get himself through this. And then in the summer, Everton move into their new stadium, the new revenue streams come, the new digital enabling comes in, and the ownership model goes, right, we've got rid of the clown college that was running it before, we've got a new board, we've got a new set of people around the club, we've got a new director of football, we've got a new manager, whether it's Moyes staying on or not. Lights are on, away we go, spend a bit of money. Yeah. That's what will happen.
Yeah. Simon, I have a question. Do you think that if nobody comes to Everton during the transfer market, do you think Moyes have the abilities, to stick with the same players and to save their skin in the Premier League?
I think Southampton are toast. We'll accept that. They're gone. Forget about them. That's not even a conversation worth having. I think Leicester will go with them. And I think Wolves have had their bounce. So I think they're going to go and they're going to survive by the mantra that Jim just trotted out, is there'll be 3 worst sides.
There are. Are you saying to me today there are, at this time, 3 worst teams in Everton?
With respect to what West Ham had, when Moyes went in there, after Pellegrini, and they were getting rid of wasted times like Felipe Anderson that they spent 45 million quid on that were a waste of time, they didn't have a potent strike force. With due respect to Mikel Antonio, he doesn't get you 20 goals a season. So what Moyes will do is make Everton the same thing as Dyche did, make Everton difficult to beat. And they might nick a few 1-0s. They might make it difficult for opposition to beat them. There's nothing changing. David isn't going to suddenly change from somebody that had 29% possession at West Ham into somebody that plays expansive football at Everton. Could be the same.
I think the best chance for Everton is probably that there is worst team, actually in the Premier League.
That's what we just said.
Yeah. Answer his question for me, though, Emmanuel. If you're a top player and Everton are where Everton are, but they're moving to a brand new stadium, and it's going to be a different ball game, literally, are they a draw?
It's a gamble because you don't know if they will stick, in the Premier League.
So joining in January.
Yes. You have no idea at the end of the season if they stay in the Premier League.
Do you think they'll stay in the Premier League?
I think so. That's what I said. I agree, with Simon. I think there is worse team actually in the Premier League. So this is the lucky things, for them.
It's a dreadful situation for them to be in, isn't it?
But it's been like that for years. So
Why?
I said, they're flirting with the relegation zone, for years now. So sooner or later it's going to come.
I mean, it's not as if Moshiri hasn't spent money.
Yeah, but you say all that, right? But Graham Stewart kept him in the division 25 years ago, or whenever it was, by scoring a goal in the last game of the season against Wimbledon, right? So this is not something that hasn't happened to Everton before. And then they have a resurgence. Yeah. And then ultimately a change of ownership. Bill works with Peter Woods, I think it was, or Peter Johnson, and ultimately out comes David Moyes from Preston. They have a halcyon period of time. Moyes goes, gets the chosen one job at Man United. In comes a litany of managers. The Everton fans like Martinez, then they don't like his ticky-tacky football. They like Koeman, then they don't like it. They like Sam Allardyce, gets them out of trouble, they don't like it. The problem is that they've had bad management in the boardroom, bad selection processes. I think Ancelotti, despite the fact he's a revelation of a manager, was a bad decision for Everton because he wasn't going to stay at Everton. Everybody knew. I said to you when he went to Everton, he ain't going to be there for 5 minutes. Frank Arnesen said to me, I'm not sure about that. He's bringing his son with him. I'm not sure about the fit of that. And out the door he goes to Real Madrid, which of course he would do.
Yeah.
Everton will be, in my view, in far better hands under Friedkin than they were under Mashiri, and it will correct itself. But right now, they're going to have to suck it in and get on with it.
And maybe I think they should stop selling their best player every single season.
Yeah.
That's the problem as well,
It's fair to say, Emmanuel.
Onana, Maguire, a couple of years ago. I think if you want to be competitive, if you want to change your stadium, then you have to get a sport direction, and that means you have to keep your best player.
Sure, but then you're going to have the same challenges that everyone else has, which is financial governance is biting into football clubs. They overspent. They had to deal with this. We're going to see what happens to Newcastle, because Newcastle can't do what they want to do, and someone's going to come knocking on their door about Usyk, and see what happens there when a player goes, actually, I want to go.
You've taken us beautifully to it. Newcastle, Alexander-Usyk. What are you thinking about him?
I love him. Honestly, he's a goal machine, this guy, and I wouldn't love to be a central defender, and mark him, on the pitch, because it's a big challenge every single time.
And Newcastle, Emmanuel, are they sweeping themselves towards Champions League again? The way they're going at the moment?
It looks like, yeah. I think they're coming back strongly, and it's really competitive, the Premier League, especially to win your position for the Champions League competition. So now they are back, on the top four, and they've been winning games, for at least 7 or 8 games now, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's very hard, to go over there, St. James Park, and they're becoming really, really difficult to beat now.
If they don't get Champions League football, can they keep Usyk?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. Those guys, when they're performing like that, they're improving years after years. They want to play, the best competition. So it's quite difficult, financially as well for the club, to keep your players if you don't get the money from the Champions League. But on top of it, it's difficult, to keep your best players if they have the motivation, the ambitions, to play those competitions.
Depends who asked the question, Jim.
Yeah.
Who asked the question? If Liverpool asked the question or Manchester City asked the question, then Newcastle aren't. He isn't leaving Newcastle because he wants to leave Newcastle. He's desperate to get away from Newcastle. He's leaving Newcastle because someone bigger and better and bolder comes along. If Real Madrid come knocking on the door to Newcastle, he's gone.
Right.
Newcastle can protest and say we want to keep him. The player will go, I'm going.
It's great Emmanuel is with us at this time, because talk about Real Madrid knocking on the door. Right now, they're knocking heavily on the door of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Liverpool, and we've got an update on that with Emmanuel right here in studio to give us his view. Stay with us.
Transfer window daily briefing on talkSPORT with Intuit QuickBooks. Beat the deadline day drama with QuickBooks Sole Trader. Tackle your self-assessment and business admin with ease all year round.
And at this stage, we will take a look at the latest news in this transfer window. Alex Crook, my colleague, joins Simon, myself, and Emmanuel Petit live on the show. Alex, good time for you to join us, mate, because I think, do I not? Am I right? It is a developing story now with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Real Madrid. What have you got?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, guys. Obviously, this has been one of the sagas of the transfer window so far, not just the future of Trent Alexander-Arnold, but Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk as well. There's been a report in Marca this morning suggesting Trent Alexander-Arnold has reached a verbal agreement to join Real Madrid at the end of the season. Now, we should point out at this stage, Marca, very much a mouthpiece for Real Madrid. So we'll take that with a pinch of salt. And actually, our understanding is he's yet to relay any final decision to Liverpool. But Real Madrid growing in confidence. We can report this morning that Trent Alexander-Arnold will join his England teammate Jude Bellingham at the Bernabeu. He's yet, as I say, to communicate a final decision to Liverpool, but I think sources at Anfield are acutely aware the longer this saga goes on, the growing possibility that Trent Alexander-Arnold leaves. We should also point out at this stage, contracts remain on the table, not just for the England international, but for Mo Salah, who's been offered eye-watering money to go to the Saudi Pro League, and for Virgil van Dijk as well. So I think that the future of these three should become clearer, certainly by the end of the window.
Now, Alex, you'll be interested in this. Now, I'm not giving away too much, I hope, but in the commercial break there, Emmanuel with us here in studio. You went to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Now, when we spoke there about Trent Alexander-Arnold going to be heading out to Real Madrid, and it's looking more and more likely, you're of an attitude, good luck, because he'll need it.
Good
He's
luck,
going to need it.
You know, Spain is completely different, than England, especially the fans, the medias, The fans, first of all, I think they can turn up against you very easily, You have to be good every single game over there because they don't give you time, to adapt yourself. They put pressure on you straight away. The style of playing as well is completely different. And I don't know if you've seen, the Super Cup final, last Sunday.
Barcelona
they've been trashed. They've been trashed, by Barcelona. Defensively, they show so many weakness, and we all know that the quality of Trent Alexander-Arnold is not as a defender, but with the ball. So, honestly, when I think about that, it could be a good move for him. But I wish him very good luck because he won't get time, to adapt himself.
Yeah. Emmanuel, before we leave it, there have been suggestions here that he should be showing more loyalty to Liverpool because he's a local boy.
Well, loyalty actually in football, I don't know what it means. I don't know if Simon agree with me, but at the end of the day, it's all about money, and it's. I think he's done so much, for Liverpool so far. I wish he could stay at the club because I want, the best name, the best player staying at the Premier League. But I can understand as well that he wants probably a different challenge, for football, but as well as a private person,
Were you loyal? Can you say you were loyal after Arsenal, Barcelona, and then you pitched up at Chelsea?
I always said that it was a mistake for me to leave Arsenal. If I could go back, these days, I would probably change my mind and I will make things different. And I was kind of stupid making that decision back then.
Yeah. Do you think Trent Alexander-Arnold, if he ends up at Real Madrid, can make it a success for himself?
I wish him the best of luck, but it's going to be a tough task. Very hard, to reach because when you play for Real Madrid and when you play as well for Barcelona, you know that everything is based on the attacking styles, and most of the time, you as a defender, you always play 1 against 1, and when you have to play against top wingers, especially in Spain, I just wondering how you will react, to play against the likes of Lamine Yamal or the like of so many great wingers in Spain. So with speeds and technical skills, this is exactly what Trent Alexander-Arnold hates. So that's why I said I wish him the best, because when you play as a defender in Spain, especially in those great clubs, you're always alone in your zone.
Sure. Mario Lemina in the news. What have you got, Alex?
Yeah, well, they were quite explosive comments, weren't they, last night from the Wolves manager, Vitor Pereira, basically suggesting that he told him he didn't want to play ahead of their heavy defeat against Newcastle. This is a guy who captained the team at the start of the season. He had that armband taken away from him after an altercation with his own assistant manager, Sean Derry. We know there's strong interest from Saudi Arabia in the form of Al Shabab. What I can tell you this morning is that Wolves have rejected an approach from Al Shabab to sign Lemina because they, at the moment, aren't offering a transfer fee. They wanted to take Lemina for free. Wolves, even though he's into the last 6 months of his contract, clearly wants some kind of financial reimbursement. Talks will continue, and it's also been suggested to me this morning that Galatasaray, where Lemina was once on loan from Southampton, are showing a bit of interest as well. I'm not surprised the way events have turned for Mario Lemina at Wolves, because if you look at his checkered career, shall we say, this type of behaviour is not completely out of character.
Yeah, let's move on and get to West Ham. What are you thinking?
Well, it seems there's a different striker name in the frame every day for West Ham. We've reported about Evan Ferguson and Taiwo Awoniyi. We were the first to report interest in him. My understanding is that West Ham have now started talks with Nottingham Forest, but I think Forest would be keen to keep Awoniyi, certainly aren't willing to entertain a loan deal and will want a replacement if they were to sell him. One of the other names on West Ham's shortlist is that of Rodrigo Muniz. He got the winner off the bench against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, a game that I commentated for talkSPORT a few weeks ago. That would be a loan deal that West Ham are offering with an option to sign him permanently at the end of the season. At the moment, Fulham have said no to that because he's next in line to Raul Jimenez, and I think Marco Silva is keen to keep his squad together.
Interesting. Wolves Zaha in the news this morning. Is he heading to the airport to go over to the USA? What do you know?
Yeah, I'm fascinated to get Simon's view on this, actually. He's been on loan at Lyon in the first half of the season. He made that move, didn't he, from Crystal Palace to Galatasaray. Now, there is a limit into which leagues he can go to now, because in Europe, you can only play for 2 clubs in one season, so that would prohibit him coming back to the Premier League. I know he's watching Palace recently. The MLS are one of the few leagues that do allow you to play for more than 2 clubs in a season. Charlotte, managed by Dean Smith, looks like his destination. He's 32 years of age now, Simon, and my question to you is, how do we look back on Wilf Zaha's career? Do we look back on it as unfulfilled potential?
Depends whose eyes you're looking through. If you're looking through the eyes of Crystal Palace fans that had him for several years, where he was the lightning rod for most of their opportunities, his goals got them into the Premier League in the playoffs semi-final win against Brighton at Brighton in 2013. His goals and his performances kept them in the league and kept them progressing at times. There was a statistic that ultimately Palace couldn't win games without him in the side. That needed to change. Wilfried Zaha was a product of his time. Arsenal would have bought him at one point. They didn't want to pay Palace what Palace wanted for him, so they ended up buying Nicolas Pepe for 75 million quid. It was a complete waste of time. He went to United at the cusp of changing of culture. Didn't settle down there. I think, and people would say I'm biased because he came out of my academy and I knew Wilfried from a young boy. I think he was a remarkably talented player and opportunities were missed. I think he could have played at most of the big clubs. I think he made the wrong move at the wrong time to United for a variety of different reasons. It helped Palace out at the time because they got 15 million quid when they needed the money. But for Wilfried Zaha, the move to Galatasaray, for me, I always thought was a strange one. It wasn't about progression for him. I suspect it was about the economics because it was a free transfer and they were prepared to pay him the money. And ending up in American football, I've just been over there. I've just watched it and watched the 2 best teams apparently in Inter Miami and St. Louis playing in a game, and it was shocking, the standard of football. The players on the pitch, like a kicker ball, were Messi, Suarez was on one leg. And Busquets.
You're shaking your head at the thought of Zaha.
I totally agree with what Simon said. Coming back to Zaha, I think he was such an electric player, so game changer, you know. And I think with his qualities, he should have done much better in his career, to be honest with you. I always thought that he was probably one of the best winger in the Premier League, but I have no idea why he didn't reach, the next step, the next level, and playing for a top club, and performing very well every single weekend. So this is for me frustrating to watch his career.
You heard that, right? You heard that, Jim, and you heard that, Luke, because I've been saying that for years. And every time I put my head above the parapet about Wilf Zaha, you guys sniggered about it and went, "Oh, really?" Now you've got someone that's playing at the highest level.
Yeah, but there's never been a taker.
That's not the
point.
He had the character and the personality. He was such a bad behavior on the pitch all the time because he wanted to win, he wanted to score goals. So this is something very interesting for a manager, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, but still waiting though for a Premier League club to go for him.
Playing at Palace,
that's why he's going to the MLS.
Playing at Palace was probably a godsend for him, and also a bad thing for him because he was a big fish in a small pond. I saw him on a halfway line with his hands on his hips because the ball didn't get played where he wanted it to get played. I saw him feeling that ultimately that things weren't going his way. Whereas at a bigger club at the right time. With top pros around him, it would have taken him on to the next level.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much indeed. That was a look at the window thanks to Intuit QuickBooks. Search QuickBooks to find out more.
Transfer window daily briefing on talkSPORT with Intuit QuickBooks. Beat the deadline day drama with QuickBooks Sole Trader. Tackle your self-assessment and business admin with ease all year round.
North London is red and Postecoglou's feeling blue. Here's what Gunners legend Emmanuel Petit thinks Spurs need to do.
Something has broken into this team. So you cannot sack all the players. So you have to make the easiest decision, which is the sack of the manager. I'm sorry to say that because I don't like saying that.
Arsenal are back within 4 points of leaders Liverpool, but it's Newcastle who are the informed team.
Newcastle 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, and it's 9 wins in a row for Newcastle. 9 goals in 8 games for Alexander-Arnold, which takes them rightly, as you say, Adrian, to 4th place in the Premier League.
David Moyes' big Everton homecoming didn't quite go to plan. Ollie Watkins scored the only goal for Villa to spoil his party. Much to work on.
When the games are really tight and there's very little between the teams on the night, you might need to take your moment, and we didn't quite take our moment tonight.
And is this another false start for Man United or the beginning of a new age? They haven't had a league win for a month, but they did just beat Arsenal in the FA Cup and drew at Liverpool before that. Ruben Amorim had this to say as they face bottom side Southampton tonight.
When you have the pressure to win, that is the pressure that we want. And sometimes it's harder to cope with that pressure, because against Arsenal and Liverpool, no one was expecting us to beat that teams.
We're across all the Premier League action from 7 p.m. on talkSPORT.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era in sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
And at this point, Charlie Robertson from BetMGM joins us to look at the latest odds around and about some of the top sporting events. Charlie, good morning. Emmanuel Petit is alongside Simon and myself. Last night's Premier League action dominated by the North London derby, right?
Morning, guys. Yeah, obviously another really big win for Arsenal, Jim. I think, as we discussed yesterday, it was pretty much a must-win for them, and they obviously got the job done. We've cut them a little bit to 3-1 for the title, although we do think Liverpool are still the strong favourites to win it at 7-20. Just looking at the other action for last night, Jim, in terms of the top four, Newcastle, who are obviously the sort of form side at the moment, they're now just even money to be playing Champions League football next season.
Yeah.
Thanks largely to that man, Alexander-Arnold, who's now 7-1 to win the Golden Boot. His side have won 6 in a row, but it's the polar opposite for Leicester, who have lost 6 in a row, and they're just 1-6 to go down. I think we can probably say it's them, Southampton, and one other. With Ipswich 4-5, Wolves 7-4, and Everton 11-4. Simon, I know you just touched on it, but it's just 1 win in 10 for Everton. They've failed to score in 9 of their last 11. Just how big a job do you think David Moyes has got on his hands, and do you think the impending move to the new stadium, almost puts more pressure on him to succeed this season?
Well, I think the impending move is the impending move. This is the reality of it. So whatever pressure that comes as a result of it is the pressure that comes as a result of it. But I look at it and say Moyes has been brought in to change the mood music. He's not going to change the way the team plays. He comes from the same principles to some extent as Sean Dyche does. He's not an expansive football manager that plays ambitious football and looks to play in a certain way. So it really was just about perhaps playing to the gallery of an audience that was becoming disenfranchised with Sean Dyche. It's a challenge. They've got difficulties. But like we've discussed on the show, Charlie, it looks like there are 3 teams that are worse than Everton. And what David will do is continue to make Everton difficult to play against, difficult to score against. And hopefully, if he can find someone that's going to put the ball in the back of the net, maybe they're going to nick a few games 1-0 and find themselves on 35 points and not get relegated at the end of the season.
Clamber out of that danger area. 2 more games tonight, Charlie. What are you thinking?
Yeah, that's right, Jim. As Simon touched on, obviously, the relegation battle. Big win for Ipswich would be really helpful in their battle for survival. They take on Brighton tonight. They're 27-10 with Brighton 5-2 in the draw even money. I think we can call Brighton the sort of draw specialists at the moment. They've drawn all of their last 4 in the league, so that even money could be worth a look at. And the other game sees 15th taken on 20th as Man United host Southampton. I'm not sure we thought Man United would be 15th in the league, but there they are. There have been a few sort of positive signs under Amarin, haven't they? But they have lost all of their last 3 at home. We do have made them 2-7 to beat Southampton, who are winless in their last 17 league matches. Manu, what have you made of United under Ruben Amorim, and can you see sort of signs of progress at Old Trafford so far?
No, not really. I think he has struggles the same way that former managers on the bench. I've been saying that for years now. I think there is so many players that don't have, for me, the personality and the character, and as well the quality to wear the Manchester United shirt. So good luck for him. It's a big task, but I think he will struggle until the end.
You'll struggle until the end. Ruben, if you're listening, good luck. The Australian Open continues. What have you got for us?
Yeah, Australian Open rolls on in Melbourne, Jim, and the Brits, by and large, continues to do really well. Yeah, Emma Raducanu and Jacob Fernley both got through, though they've got pretty difficult games in the next round. Raducanu's got Iga Swiatek and Fernley's got Alex Zverev. Both their opponents are heavily odds on, but the one we do think will get through is Jack Draper, who is 1-5 to beat Alexander Vukic and get through to the fourth round for the first time. So he's probably the sole British hope at the moment, but they're all still going strong, Jim.
Okay, terrific stuff. Thank you very much indeed. Visit betmgm.co.uk, download the app, 18+, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Making every game an occasion with tools to help you play safe. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app, 18+, gambleaware.org.
Emmanuel Petit in studio with Simon and myself. He's with us till 12 noon, and thereafter we shall talk boxing. And Emmanuel, no doubt, will head back to Paris.
Yeah.
Is that on the cards today? You got a radio show tonight, haven't you?
Beautiful Paris.
Yes. Beautiful Paris, but the environment, socially and economically is very, very tense, and aggressivity of people every single day in the street. So, I don't remember, the last time that people were happy all together in France. That was probably, in 1998 when we won the World Cup.
Yeah. When you won the World Cup, you do a lot of media. Mm-hmm. And may I say you're brilliant at it, because I ask you a question, I'm going to get an honest answer.
That's my problem.
What do you mean your problem?
Because there is so many people pointing the finger at me because of what I say, because I try to say what I think, and I try to be objective all the time. And most of the people in football, especially former players and people I used to know, they point the finger at me because of that, because who I am, my personality, my character. But you know what? I don't really care about that. I try to follow my way, and I don't wish any hard feelings to people. I don't do any bad things to people. I try to be honest all the time, and I know that we're living in a society that you have to follow the rules. I don't care about that.
Are you meaning some of your former World Cup winning teammates from that team that beat Brazil in 1998?
Honestly, I don't have big links, with most of my former teammates. We used to meet, twice per year, because I always say to everyone that what we've done, and I think they will agree with what I'm saying, that what we've done is beyond football, and we're not talking about football. We're talking about something that represents our country, and we should be proud about that. And it's not a personal concern. So ego, things like this, I'm not deal with that, and I prefer, to follow my own way, and I don't listen to the noise around me.
So by being honest and forthright and straight, it's alienated you from some.
We
of
are
the
not
guys you used to
living
be
in a
with.
world, and I think this is typical of human being. If you want to be honest with yourself and to look at yourself in the mirror, then you have to say what you think all the time. But most of the time you meet people that are giving you the image of it, and in private they say something different. So I don't point the finger at them, I don't judge them, but don't judge me, okay?
That's the kind of attitude you like, though, isn't it? I see you smiling and listening to Emmanuel like that. In fact, you kind of touched on it in your column this morning about leadership.
I think it's I think the audience would appreciate it. The audience appreciate people that are candid. They don't like people that are candid because they have a bias. They don't like people that speak their mind because they're subjective and they're serving out an agenda. But they like people that call it as they see it. Now, that means that makes other people uncomfortable. People are uncomfortable with confident people. People are uncomfortable with people that speak their minds. They don't like it. What they do is they go, oh, he's arrogant. No, he's confident. Oh, he's aggressive. No, he's not. He's assertive. Right? But these are the terms that are used in conjunction with people, because what it does is it diminishes them and puts you in a category, and makes people easier to attack you. I think there's something wrong with people not speaking their minds. I think society, it desperately requires it. The silent majority appreciates it. The vociferous minority, the vested interest, don't like it. It unnerves them. It makes them accountable.
Yeah.
And that's why people get uncomfortable with me, and I suspect they get uncomfortable with him.
We're going to head to a break, Emmanuel, but do you want to finish this for us?
Yes, I think you need to get a lot of courage, to be who you are.
Absolutely.
In this world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're not going to change?
Never.
Good for you.
Never. I prefer to leave a knee on the floor, but with courage, than standing, in front of you with weakness,
Day as a lion rather than life as a lamb.
Loving it. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Emmanuel Petit with you live in TalkSport, courtesy of Selco. It's where the trade goes. Prize I was telling you about, 2 tickets to give away to the Super Bowl. We've also got flights from London for you, accommodation, and a whopping $5,000 to go with it. All you have to do is text the word USA to 83338. Then you're in the draw. Texts are £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can enter by post. Once again, for your chance to win, text USA to 83338 or enter by post. We'll take care of the rest.
Entries cost £2 plus your standard network charges. Enter by 20th of January 2025 at 11 p.m. Alternatively, you can enter by post. Send your name, email address and contact details, including telephone number, to Super Bowl Competition, P.O. Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP. Postal entries must be received by 23rd of January by 5 p.m. 18 plus only from England, Scotland or Wales. You must have bill payers' permission. This is a news broadcasting network competition. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Isn't it?
Simon, you've been itching to speak to me during that.
I was just thinking, if I won that competition, I'd trouser the £5,000 and not go and watch that miserable sport.
He almost did it. He almost did it. You cannot enter. This is not open to you because you work here with me at talkSPORT. We cannot enter. But we should still go to the Super Bowl together, should we not?
I don't want to watch that fight. Super Bowl. Boring.
Boring.
Do you like Super Bowl, Emmanuel?
No. Emmanuel Petit is with us.
I tried many times. I try, but I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As I was explaining to you before we came on air, and Emmanuel, the messages, there's one there from an Arsenal fan, Tom. I love Petit, Jim. Can he not be on with you every day? I think he's rather busy over in Paris and he's heading there after this. One man who is on with us on a Monday is a former teammate of yours, Arsenal Invincible, Martin Keown. And on a regular basis, Emmanuel, it's fair to say that Martin locks horns with Simon and would like to knock me out as well. That's another matter. When it gets to player welfare, Simon and Martin have really gone at it.
You saved up money to go to a game. Think of it from the fan. He sits there. He doesn't get to see. Salah doesn't play. He's gone to Anfield, first time he's ever been there. And Salah doesn't play because he can't play because he's playing so many games in quick succession.
But do you accept, Martin, that money comes into this, or do you not?
Of course, money comes into it. But the players, I'm sure, will make that adjustment. Simon laughs, and that is just ridicule. And do you know what? It's interesting. I bumped into a lot of former players this week, and every single one of them said to me, "What is it with that man? He does no respect for players or former players."
What, this man?
Yeah, Simon. I'm telling you now, across the board, show respect. The players.
Which players? Tell me.
Former players.
Well,
you're not going to get any names.
Oh,
you're not going to
Martin,
get.
no,
there's
go the whole hog.
Because there are too many to tell you.
Martin, go
We'd
the whole
be
hog.
here all day
Absolutely.
if I told you. So there's this disdainfulness from you. The players just want.
You mean
to
the honesty?
Look, the
players.
players.
Mean the challenging of the hypocrisy and the double standards and the disingenuity.
Don't judge everyone with the players that you might have worked with at Palace.
No, I don't.
What we're talking about. But okay, then you say you don't, but take a good look in the mirror because I believe you do.
Okay.
All I'm saying here is.
But that doesn't make it so, does it, Martin? Because you believe it's so, and whatever little cronies you hang about with believe it's so.
Yeah.
What I do is I concentrate the minds of the hypocrisy that you're advancing.
I defended you to the hilt.
But I
he's
don't
not
need
a bad guy. He's nothing like what you might perceive. He's a different bloke. Because I give people a chance,
Martin,
as you know.
But Martin,
that's
but that's kind of irrelevant,
but
isn't
what
it,
I'm
Martin?
saying to you is, forget
you believe a difference of opinion. I have utter disdain for the observation that you make, which is that the players will acquiesce to the demands of the industry when money comes out of the game, because it's been universally proven that that's not the case.
Wow.
Yeah.
I loved it.
You loved it?
Yeah, of course. This is Martin Keown, just like the defenders, we all know on the pitch, he was a terrible fighter, so this is how he is,
Yeah, he believes in what he believes in.
But I know you're a big admirer of Simon.
I like both of them.
The two of them going at it.
I like people when they have, strong, opinions and they are not scared of saying it. So. Yeah. But in democracy, you don't have to agree with people, but you have to respect opinions.
Correct. Yeah. Tragedy is I don't respect Martin's opinion.
On that very topic of player welfare, you actually have the same opinion as Martin, I think, because way back in...
I love him, to be honest with you. I love the guy, I love the player, so...
Yeah, sure. Way back in 1999, you won't remember this, but you spoke to the newspaper, the Daily Mirror, and you said, if the present number of games continues, something's going to have to give. And you said that way back in 99, that there were too many games. You actually went on to say, and I don't know if it was tongue-in-cheek or not, we will all have to take drugs to survive. Some footballers already do, I know that.
Or to pick your games.
And I'm not giving any names, you said.
I totally agree. I think the amount of games, but it's weird, this conversation, because I had exactly the same conversation yesterday with some people. I said about, Rodri comment, before he get injured.
coincidence or not, I don't know. But I said, if I have a message to say to Rodri, I said, I could totally agree with what you're saying, but the fact is, you represent only 30% of the top players in the football industry. That means 70% of it just want to dream to live in the same world that you're living, to get the same amount of money, to play the same competition every single season. That means what you're saying, most of the players, they don't understand it because they just want to live your life. But in the meantime, the football industry is turning around the 30% of top players. People are buying TV rights, are going to the stadium to watch games, to see the top players, because the emotion they bring, the 70% of it, that's just average players. So the industry is not turning around them. So sooner or later, those people that are controlling us, they have to find a deal, with top players, because at the moment, they don't have the unity altogether to have a power to change things.
See, my argument is never about how many games they play. It's evident that players are playing too many games.
Yeah.
That's not a debate.
Yeah.
The debate is why? And the argument from my side of the table is, if you are taking all of the money out of the room, and the major beneficiaries of football now, the broadcast deals, the revenue in football, the players, you're not really in a position to say to people that I don't want to play games. Because if you're prepared to accept that the reduction in games, meaning the reduction in the
wages,
benefit you get from the game, then people like me would sit there and go, okay, fine, we've reached an accord. But no one's prepared to say that. They will say, I want the same money. In fact, I want more, but I want to play less. And no one can make sense of it.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
No, that's impossible. If you want to play less games, though, that means you're going to receive less money.
So get on with it.
But they don't see it that way. And what I was saying to Martin was, if Rodri wants to play less games, he can rock into the boardroom of the president of Manchester or chairman of Manchester City and say, I will sign a contract with Manchester City, but I'll only play 50 games a season. How you use me for those 50 games? He won't say that, because the chairman of Man City will go, well, you're not going to get paid the same money then, are you?
I totally agree.
Yeah. That's the challenge.
Yeah. Last time I saw you in Germany, England got themselves to the final of the Euros and they played Spain. Did you think they would win?
No, really, no. Because I think Spain, in terms of... It's very difficult, when you play for a country and you have a style of playing.
Yeah.
This is a huge debate, with Didier Deschamps with France for years. And that's why I disagree with former players, because I know by experience that it's very difficult to work with your teammates, because you meet them, a couple of times, per season. So it's not like a manager, in a club that works with their players, every single day. So it's hard to have a style. So going back to your question, I think Spain's have identity, DNA, through the generation, how they play. So this is something very different and important. But on top of it, this is what we've been talking before the show. I'm so bored now watching World Cups and European competition because of the top players. I come back to the top players. They get so tired at the end of the season. So there is no show, no
quality,
on the pitch anymore. As I said, those who are controlling us, sooner or later they have to find something,
And in the minute we have left, since I've seen you, Southgate has gone and England appointed Thomas Tuchel. Is he going to be an improvement on that?
Well, I think I have a huge respect for what has done the former manager, so far, because he has reached semi-final, final. He didn't win any silverware, but would it change with Tuchel? I'm not sure about that. As I said, Tuchel has a proper style of play, when he was in Paris Saint-Germain. He didn't get the chance to do that, with Chelsea. So I have no idea. It's a foreign manager. Honestly, for me, the commitment of the players as well is questionable. I've seen that the last time, they meet, for their countries. As I said, because of the amount of games, you have to pick your games now.
Yeah.
And not sometimes clubs are more important. For me, that is the most difficult problem to face here in England. Identity of clubs is more important than the national team.
Sure. Emmanuel, your train is waiting at Paddington Station.
So happy to be there with you guys. I wish you all the best, for this season. Happy New Year's.
And you, Emmanuel Petit, thank you for being with us. We're coming up to 12 thereafter. We'll talk boxing.
North London is red and Postecoglou's feeling blue. Here's what Gunners legend Emmanuel Petit thinks Spurs need to do.
Something has broken into this team. So you cannot sack all the players. So you have to make the easiest decision, which is the sack of the manager. I'm sorry to say that because I don't like saying that.
Mikel Arteta's side piled the pain on their derby rivals after they came from behind to win 2-1 at the Emirates. Ange knows it's not good enough.
Tonight, especially in that first 45, we were way too, like I said, way too passive, and that's not acceptable. And then when you do that, then these kind of things creep in.
But Declan Rice thinks his side should have scored just a few more.
We could have probably had 10 tonight, and that's the God's honest truth.
Arsenal are back within 4 points of leaders Liverpool, but it's Newcastle who are the informed team.
Newcastle 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, and it's 9 wins in a row for Newcastle. 9 goals in 8 games for Alexander-Arnold, which takes them rightly, as you say, Adrian, to 4th place in the Premier League.
Elsewhere, Crystal Palace goals from Jean-Philippe Mateta and Mark Gahey inflicted a 6th straight defeat on Leicester. Is Ruud van Nistelrooy's time running out? David Moyes' big Everton homecoming didn't quite go to plan. Ollie Watkins scored the only goal for Villa to spoil his party. Much to work on.
We need to create even more than that. But what you do need, and when the games are really tight and there's very little between the teams on the night, you might need to take your moment. And we didn't quite take our moment tonight.
And is this another false start for Man United or the beginning of a new age? They haven't had a league win for a month, but they did just beat Arsenal in the FA Cup and drew at Liverpool before that. Ruben Amorim had this to say as they face bottom side Southampton tonight.
People expect us to win, and that changes things. When you have the pressure to win, that is the pressure that we want. And sometimes it's harder to cope with that pressure, because against Arsenal and Liverpool, no one was expecting us to beat that teams.
We're across all the Premier League action from 7 p.m. on talkSPORT. And for more reaction on the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight announcement, head to the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel.
Time 12 noon Thursday lunchtime. Emmanuel Petit has headed off to Paddington to jump in the Eurostar, and we will carry on live on talkSPORT, live on YouTube and Facebook, and we will talk boxing with Spencer Oliver. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim. Good afternoon, Simon. How are you both?
Bon après-midi. I saw you posing for photographs with Emmanuel Petit the other side of the glass there.
I did, yeah. He asked me for a photo, so I allowed him to have one.
Who's your team?
Tottenham.
I know it was. I thought it was. So you're quite happy to stick yourself in front of an Arsenal player.
But all right, I'm going to give you a story now, Simon. You know you're going to like this. So my whole family is Arsenal, going back to my granddad, my father, my wife, and my daughter. Everyone's Arsenal, right? So I'm a Tottenham fan, and my second favourite team is Arsenal.
Wow. Okay. How does that work? How can your second favourite team be your first team's greatest rival?
Yeah, because they're two London clubs, and I think if I'm going to like another team and support another team, it's going to be Arsenal. It's not.
I know a lot of people like that. I know a lot of people that have got parents that supported one side of the Islington divide. So it's not unfamiliar.
So what's your second team? Millwall?
Leave off. That's not a football team. It's a rebel.
That's fair enough. Well, Emmanuel Petit, and I watched it happen, was delighted to pose for that picture out there with you. He actually asked you if you're still fighting.
He did, actually, yeah.
It has. We know many.
Why are you laughing? I told him I'm approaching 50 years of age, so probably, a long time retired.
Well, we know many fighters are still fighting, and 2025 could well be a big year for them, because The Ring magazine has exclusively revealed that Turki Al Sheikh in Saudi Arabia is currently in advanced negotiations, finalising deals for upcoming fights with Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, Terence Crawford, Inoue, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, Jai Opetaia, Usyk, Pitbull Cruz, William Zepeda, Martin Bakole, Anthony Yarden, Adam Azim. It's going to be a busy year.
A huge year for boxing, it really is here. I think that Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford is going to happen September, Las Vegas. Do we get Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury? Do we get Anthony Joshua, Martin Bakole out in Africa? There's another one that I'm hearing is possible. So there's lots of fights on the horizon. Yeah, going to be a massive year for boxing. Did we think we could better 2024? Well, I think it's going to happen.
Well, we actually asked that question last week. Do you think this is going to better anything we've ever known?
I really do. I think that last year was a huge year for us. We got the fights. We saw the rise of Daniel Dubois. We saw the fall of Tyson Fury, the fall of Anthony Joshua. We were getting the fights that, you know, politics of the sport were getting in the way of and were being made. It was a huge year. But look at this card we've got, February the 22nd. That's a sign of what we've got to come in 2025.
I mean, if what Turki Al-Sheikh is tweeting over in Saudi is anything to go by, Simon, it's going to be a monster year. Prepare soon for announcing the biggest schedule for the year in boxing history. He said, big news coming soon. Exclusive in the Ring magazine. Let's get boxing great again. So he's kind of plundered Trump's language.
He owns a Ring magazine, doesn't he?
I mean, by that, I mean, expect the unexpected. Expect anything, to be quite honest.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, he's made money no object. So the commerciality of the decision-making process at this moment in time is leaning towards the objective of MBS in Saudi about the next generation of Saudi Arabians that are fascinated by sport, fascinated by entertainment. As Turki Al-Sheikh himself has said, we've got 60 or 70% of our population under 30 years of age. They want certain things, and entertainment and sports entertainment is part of it. So whilst there's an inordinate amount of money, there's big objectives, the financing of Neon City and other things that they want to do, and the sports capital that they want to, the Mecca they want to make of Agadir, these places. So whilst they're spending a lot of money in boxing terms, in the great scheme of things, with the $1 trillion worth of oil sitting beneath them that they've got, this is small beer. And at this moment in time, the sports minister, which is Turki Al-Sheikh, has been put into an opportunity to influence a particular sport. And it's one of those sports that you can get hold of quite easily to some extent, because it's been the Wild West. The governance is all over the place. And of course, what he's doing now is he's making all boats rise in a high tide, don't they? So you've got the promoters all looking like wonderful deal makers, when actually what you've got is one guy in a room going, well, how much would you like? How much would you like? Right? And that's what's happening. And he's getting people's attention because money clarifies people's thinking. So, you know, whether they end up ultimately owning DAZN and using that as their gatekeeper for their broadcasting across the pantheon of sports that they want to get involved in. It's interesting. What does it leave as a legacy if they decide not to do it anymore? I don't think that's imminent. But all of these things have to be baked into the thinking. But right now, if you are a boxing fan, you are having every single one of your boxing wishes being fulfilled. And the fighters themselves cannot hide behind which broadcaster they have to be on, because it's all been removed. So if you don't want to fight, you don't have a fight, because it's no longer about money. So everyone that wants to fight one another is going to fight now.
And what's been taken out of the argument as well is that the 55 percentage splits, who gets what, where does it go, 50-50. He's doing a deal with the fighters, which is fantastic for the sport.
I mean, should the boxing world be concerned when the time comes, and it will, Turki Al-Sheikh says, that's it, and exits stage left?
First of all, it's not his money. He's working for Mohammed bin Salman, whose objective as the Crown Prince is to build Saudi Arabia into an entity where there's going to be a free port built there. There's a commercial hub in the Gulf states that they want to take advantage of. A whole raft of things. So there's no indication they're going to turn the money off. What it will do is it drives the price up elsewhere. Now, if everybody's happy with that, and currently that they are, then that's fine. Right now, in the here and now, you can only eat what's on your plate. You have to worry about what's coming tomorrow. Perhaps tomorrow. Right now, for the sport is getting whether it's going to hit the. I think that there's certain flaws in his thinking. Who am I to tell him? Because he's in a position of great influence and operates with great financial impunity. But I don't think the boxing world is going to grow as big as perhaps he thinks it will, because I think there's a limited ceiling to how many boxing fans there are in the world. It's not going to rival the footballs of the world and sports of that nature, and perhaps it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But right now, what he's doing is he's energising the sport. And is energising, and I look forward to him dealing with certain contentious issues, like scoring, and like the issues around drug taking in the sport and the disciplines that are there, because they need to be attended to, because this is a sport that sails under the radar of the challenges that other sports have got, and it's probably the sport that should be most prominent about dementia and CTE, but it doesn't seem to have that on its radar, and you know, people will reason that one through. The challenging thing is what have everyone been doing for the last 15, 20 years? Why does it take one man to come in the room? You know, I am fascinated by the audacity of some of the promoters sitting there dispensing wisdom to other promoters about, if you want to have a good relationship with Frank Warren, you better do this, that and the other. Is that right, Eddie? You didn't speak to him for 15 years. So how are you going to give relationship advice? And then you've got Frank on the other side, you shouldn't be throwing legal writs around. This is a guy that throws legal writs around like confetti.
Well, Frank Warren's going to join us very shortly. Is he not? Producer Luke? Yes, Producer Luke's giving me the thumbs up.
Happy New Year, Frank.
And we shall ask him that.
Your cash cow's gone.
But as and when Turki Al-Sheikh leaves the scene, and the Saudis have had enough. And as Simon rightly says, this isn't football. You know, this is boxing. The attendances are nowhere near. The audience TV worldwide is nowhere near what football gets. At the end of the day, who's going to take up the mantle after he goes?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a negative thought process, really, because you're saying as and when and if. I mean, let's just enjoy the moment. I think that's where we're at with it right now. We're getting fights that we've never had before. We're getting cards that we've never had before. The politics of the sport have been taken away. So I'm just a fan of that. And I'll enjoy this moment. That whole if he comes out, when he comes out, well, that's
you have to worry about that when it happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right now, we're getting it as boxing fans. And you were talking about the growth of the sport, and I think that we lost a lot of fans because of the politics of the sport, because fights weren't getting made and people getting fed up with Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury should have been made 5 years ago, and it was talked about being made, but we couldn't get it over the line because who wanted 60%, who wanted 40%. That was not going to happen. People were getting bored of it, and I think that's where we were losing fans. Now we are getting the fights that are being made. People will start coming back to boxing.
They've come to the party.
The only thing that I would raise as any form of negativity towards the Saudis, because a lot's been said and a lot's been misrepresented and mischaracterised. When people talk about atmospheres, it's not about criticisms, it's about observations. What you then do is you react to it and improve it, right? Which has now happened. Because Focci's gone over there, he's now on a payroll, so he says things slightly more in accordance with what they want. But the fact is the atmosphere is better. The only thing that I disagree with is you are allowed to make criticisms. And it would appear that, I saw Turki Al-Sheikh do an interview with Carl Froch where he asked Carl Froch what the problem was, and Carl went into the atmosphere. And it would be interesting, and that atmosphere has now moved on, because I know for a fact that there's a lot of British fans over there.
Yeah.
The culture of the Saudis...
Fury Usyk was incredible.
But the culture of the British fan is going to be different in Saudi, because they can't drink the way they do over in this country. So it's always going to be different, and it has to be respected. But when people make observations like, well, why are you playing a national anthem in England over the top of the British anthem? And why aren't we allowed to criticise things, and people get shut down and people get stopped and get banned? I think that's where people have a legitimate right to say to the Saudis, if you want to be the dominant force in boxing and the leading light, then you are able to be criticised every now and again. And you can put people in their place.
The odd observation may stray into a degree of criticism.
If it's objective and fair and not based upon any ridiculous perspective.
Sure.
So, we'll see.
We do know that big fights are coming. One of those, Eubank Jr. against Benn. We'll get to that. In the meantime, it's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver with you live on talkSPORT, courtesy of Selcos, where the trade goes. It is Jim White, Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. We're live on talkSPORT. Emmanuel Petit has come and gone, is headed to Paddington and thereafter Gay Paris. In the meantime, we're talking boxing. Of course we are. And following on from the comments from Turki Al-Sheikh, and his forecast that 2025 is going to be super extra special. Well, it might well be, but we'll have to go on with it without one Tyson Fury after what he told us. Well, we know what he told us the other day. He told us the other day that it was game over and that he was retiring. Spencer, this is the first opportunity I've had to ask you. We've put it to a few people. After you heard what you heard, and it was a 17-second clip, that's it from me. Thanks for everything. I'm out of here. Do you believe him?
It's happened before, isn't it? I think that was the 4th time that he's actually retired. Do I believe him? No. I think we see Tyson Fury in the ring again. I think that fight with Anthony Joshua will happen, probably late summer, somewhere around that sort of time. And I think that he was just frustrated with the way that he felt that he beat Alexander-Usyk both times. Actually, he felt that he won those, and frustration kicked in. Tyson Fury is one of those guys that gets out of bed and you never quite know what he's going to say, whether he's going to retire, whether he's not going to retire, whether he's going to continue boxing well into his 40s, which we've heard before as well. Listen, if he does retire, thank you so much, Tyson Fury, for the great nights that you've given us. If he doesn't, which I don't believe he does, I think we get the Anthony Joshua fight.
You don't believe he does. Let's find out more now, because a good friend of this show, Tyson's promoter here in the UK, Frank Warren, joins us live. Frank Warren, good afternoon, sir. Happy New Year.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year to all you guys.
Thank you very much. Frank, what's the script? Did that totally take you by surprise the other day?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. I'd spoken to him a couple of times, and we were having a press conference. But that's his decision. You know, he's a guy who doesn't need to fight. He's very, very wealthy. He's had some brilliant fights, some great fights, certainly over the last few years. I mean, very exciting fights. But the bottom line is he's made his mind up at this moment in time. You know, that's how Tyson is.
At this moment in time, Frank, what's he said since? Have you spoken to him since? I'm sure you have.
No, so I spoke to him immediately after, and he said, that's it, he's retired.
Was that down to the decision that he felt that he'd won against Alexander-Usyk? Frank, was that frustration maybe kicking in? Because he felt that he won both of those fights, didn't he? And is that maybe, did that lead him into saying that he's now retired? I mean, because there's still huge fights out there for him, isn't there? And we can see that he's still got a lot left in the tank as well, Tyson Fury.
No, it's down to the fact that he doesn't want to do it anymore. That's what he said, and that's how he feels at this moment in time. You know, it's up to. I mean, he's the guy like yourself, Spence. You've been a fighter. He's getting in the ring. It's got to be his decision. And as I said after the fight, when I was asked people asked me what he's going to do, I said I have no idea. There's no way I'm going to try and influence him. It's got to be his decision after speaking with his family. He definitely doesn't need to fight for money. That's for sure.
Are you surprised, Frank, given that most people, observers of the sport, people involved in the sport, fans of the sport, don't really believe him?
I don't think really. I don't particularly care what anybody thinks. That's where it is at the moment. It's not going to influence anything. It's his decision. You know, he's spilled enough blood in this. He's had some tough fights. He's been on the floor. He's got up. As I said, he's been in thrilling fights. He's not obligated to anybody to do anything other than what he wants to do to him and his family.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever he wants to do, it should be respected.
Thereafter,
and if down the road, even if, and I don't know whether he will, and I don't think he will, but even if in the future he wanted to come back, that's his decision. It's nobody else's. It's up to him. He's the one who's taking the punches in the head.
Of course. But will you be forever disappointed nonetheless that the fight between Fury and Joshua was never made?
It's weren't made. I mean, that's not a career-defining fight for him. I mean, we talk about that fight happening, which is obviously it's a big fight as far as the fans are concerned. And Tyson has got his last couple of fights with Usyk were very, very close fights. He's lost them in a very close fight, and the fight that AJ had, he got absolutely destroyed by Daniel Dubois.
At the time, Simon, the other day when we heard Fury's announcement, and the following day when you and I were on here, you were like, well, who really cares? It's up to him.
In relation to me, I don't care. And Tyson Fury will do what he wants. I'll take him at face value. If he says he's retiring, he's retiring. I don't see the big furore. I mean, he's a charismatic figure. He's done significant things. But if he's not going to fight anymore, I'm not going to waste energy doing a tribute act to Tyson Fury and indulging whatever attention people may or may not think they can garner from his name. The media aren't paying attention to Tyson Fury retiring because they want to see anything. They're motivated by Tyson Fury's well-being. It's a story. I'm not interested in following a story. I'm interested in Daniel Dubois now. I'm interested in Moses Atuma. I'm interested in the next set of fighters that are going to fight because Tyson Fury's told everybody he's not fighting anymore. Thanks very much. See you later then.
And you weren't that bothered because you dubbed it would be the battle of the losers anyway. Well, him against Joshua.
Well, they're not losers as a result of their boxing careers, but but they are now because they're not fighting for world titles. So these are two guys that have been at the top of the division for a long period of time, and now they're no longer there. What is now potentially on offer, if Fury and Joshua to get into the ring, which conventional wisdom probably suggests they might at some point, because the money will be so significant it's going to be difficult to ignore, irrespective of how much money Tyson Fury may or may not made in his life. I've been through 100 million quid. I know how to do it. I'm sure Tyson Fury might find a way. The point is you can never have too much money. And the battle between those two guys is a slightly different one. So I don't think either Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury, by any standards, are losers ad infinitum. But currently now, they're both coming off the back of losses. So it is a battle of the two losers. Because the winners in this are Daniel Dubois and Alexander Usyk, because they are the two heavyweight champions of the world.
But every heavyweight champion of the world has always, most of them gone out having lost fights. I can't think of too many that maybe other than Marciano. Other than that, every one of them have gone out. And what should be celebrated is what he did in the ring, whether you like him or not. And obviously, you haven't got a lot of time for him, Simon. But what he's done in the ring has been phenomenal. We've never seen such courage.
I have lots of time for him. I mean, you don't care about people's opinions, so it doesn't matter either which way, Frank. But the bottom line is I have plenty of time for him. But I also think if you're able to praise somebody, you are also able to criticise them. If, of course, that criticism is fair. If it's unfair, then it should be held to account.
Well, you can't criticise him for what he's done in the ring, that's for sure.
Well, you can. You can say, well, you can say, based upon Tyson Fury's own outlook, initially that Usyk was a jumped-up middleweight. That was a gap-toothed little rabbit that couldn't fight at this level.
He's a jumps-up middleweight who's beaten how many heavyweights?
Oh, I agree, but I'm taking Tyson Fury's own words.
So was Evander Holyfield a jumps-up middleweight?
I'm not.
Was
hold
David
on.
Hay a jumps-up
but Frank,
middleweight?
I'm not accountable for Tyson Fury's words. He is. So I'm only flying back with what Tyson Fury said himself. So when you look at the fact that he has talked about being a generational great, he has talked about being the best fighter of his generation, he's talked about the fact that he's the dominant and leading heavyweight, yet he's lost Alexander Usyk twice, and in both occasions he has been disparaging, which is part of the game, and couldn't do the things that he said he could do to Alexander Usyk. So that comes with some implicit observations, in the same way that the praise was all-consuming after he dealt with Deontay Wilder. Everybody took that. You took that praise for Tyson Fury. He took that praise. When there's some criticism on the horizon, oh dear, not so happy with that.
Well, sorry, what was the criticism of the fight? I don't understand it. It was a great fight, a very close fight. Why would you criticise him for the fight?
I'm not criticising him.
He couldn't have done. Let me tell you something. You see that 9th round, the guts and the bravery that he showed in that thing, and you're criticising him for being involved in a great fight. I don't understand that.
No, Frank, you asked me to account for an observation. I just gave you an example of it. And given the fact you don't care about other people's opinions, I'm surprised you're bothering with it. But
I'm not bothering. I'm asking a question.
Well, I'm giving you an answer. The criticism that I made of Tyson Fury is based upon his own words. He was the person. You asked me to explain why I think that Tyson Fury should be held account to certain things. I gave you an example of the reasons why. I'm not criticising his performances in the fight. I'm judging the fact that Tyson Fury made observations himself. And like you, and like me, we're all accountable for our words, aren't we?
Let's try and find something to agree on. Did he give great performances in those fights, in historic fights, the two best heavyweights of their generation, or not?
I think the Tyson Fury that fought Deontay Wilder was a revelation. I think the Tyson Fury that went into a series of fights with Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora and Francis Ngannou was not. And I think as a result of that, he wasn't.
What was wrong with his performance against Dillian Whyte?
Nothing, because the levels of fighter that he had to fight against, which is not his fault. ultimately...
Well, it was his mandatory challenge.
No, that's what I said, Frank.
It was his mandatory challenge.
That's what I said.
That's on record that he should have got much, much more money than he was getting. So obviously, at the time, because he was he was box office, he'd done more. He should get more purses. His purse should be bigger. It's a liberty and things like that.
Frank, what's that got to do with the point we're making? That's what's about.
Frank,
Let me jump in.
Go on.
The point is the narrative what suits at the time, and the fact of the matter is to say that his performance against Dillian White was. Grouping it
that's
up,
not the point I made, Frank.
He was brilliant.
That's not the point I made. That's not the point I made. What you guys do and choose to do is you choose to listen to things that people don't say and then make arguments about things that people haven't said. What I said was there was a series of fights which culminated in him being in a fight with Alexander-Usyk where he wasn't at the level.
Frank, we can go round and round in circles. We won't do that today.
He wasn't at the level.
Yeah, he wasn't at the level to beat Alexander-Usyk. And I think that the post-Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury was operating at the ultimate zenith of his game, would have perhaps beaten Usyk.
So you're saying. So what did you think?
The Fury that got put on his arse by Ngannou wasn't the best version of him, was it?
You're saying in that fight. What are you saying then? He was crap in the fight.
No, I didn't say that either. Those are your words. What I said was, Frank, if you listen.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, try and listen then. Well, try and listen then. What I said was the version of Tyson.
I'm not as clever as you. I'm not as clever.
Well, you are, Frank. You're the one sitting with a big bag of money.
I'm asking a question because all I'm asking you is.
It's not about being clever, Frank.
Hang on. There's no point if you're both going to speak over each other.
It'd really be lovely.
Frank, I tell you what, Frank. Let me tell you, you have. Frank, I'm going to jump in because you have the decency to join us on the show, and I'm delighted you have, because at this particular time, we're joined live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, by His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh. Good afternoon to you, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I am still in London.
You're still in London.
Today in the night, I will go back to my country.
Thank you very much indeed, and well, even better, you're here with us in this very city. Let me ask you first off. Simon and Frank Warren were just discussing live on air there the announcement of Tyson Fury to call time in his career, and he told us the other day that that's it, he's retiring. Were you disappointed to hear that news?
First of all, this kind of decision, it must be from the fighters, and what is he thinking? He still have something to give or not? Of course, as a fan of boxing, I don't like it as a fan of boxing because we want to see Tyson more and more in big fights. But I can understand his situation, and you don't know. This kind of decision can be changed by the time.
Turkey, I was going to ask you that actually. Do you think that it's just raw emotion with Tyson Fury in the way that he felt that he was hard done by the decision? He thought that he'd won that fight against Alexander-Usyk. And I was going to ask the question, do you think we see him back in the ring again? And would it be against Anthony Joshua?
I want to tell you, sir, and this is what bothered me in boxing in the last 10 years. After the Mayweather generation, all the fighters care about not losing in their career, and this is not right. You see the models of the UFC, the champions lose and win, and this is the normal. Even in the all-time in the boxing, Muhammad Ali losing more than 5 times, all the great fighters losing and winning. And this is what must be in the mind of each fighter.
Yes. Can I ask you, you're very persuasive. You get things done. You're a man who gets things done, Your Excellency. Will you try and persuade Tyson Fury to do a U-turn and reverse the decision to retire?
Yeah, of course, I will support him. I will discuss with him, but I will leave him now sometimes to be with his family, and then we can discuss. But as Simon say yesterday, there is a lot of rumors doesn't help us and make us look like a fool. No one will proposal 500 million to do any fights. This is not correct numbers, and no one doing something like this. There is average for the price of each fight and for everything. Now, in the last 2 days, I was a little sick. Today, I am much better, and I hope to see Frank before I leave, and seeing also Eddie and Spencer and discuss about the map of the year. We have a clear map now, and we are finishing a lot of interesting card in the boxing, and we have in the Ring magazine as a private things for me. We have a collaboration now with SNK. It is a historical company for video games in Japan. This year, they will launch a very strong game. All the people waiting for, and me, one of these people. I was playing this game in the 90s, and I want to see it again. It is Fatal Fury, the City of the Wolf, and this collaboration. The result of it between the Ring and SNK, a very strong 3 cards. It will be surprise to the fans.
So are you telling us that 2025 is going to be the most exciting year ever for boxing?
I think so. We started hot and we started strong. As you heard the rumors, yes. We have a lot of contracts finished, but we will announce it in the perfect time. We have a lot of things finished. The first things we announce is Eubank and Benn, and with good undercard. It will be in the last week, April. Then there is also something in America in the first week of May. Then in the end of May, there is 5 versus 5 again. And then we have the opening of Riyadh ceremony in October. And there is also in December, very big card. We have anyone in that card. And in February also very big card. And now I want to meet with Frank and Eddie to discuss if we can have something also in August.
Wow. Do we expect Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney sometime to feature sometime along the way?
This is done.
This is done?
This is done, yes.
Well, Turkey, can I just ask you as well, do we have Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez? Is that a done deal as well? We're hearing September, possibly Las Vegas?
No comment for now.
We're very excited by the fact that.
But I want.
Go on.
If you want something about the British markets, I want to see Joshua and Wilder now. If Tyson is not available, why not Joshua and Wilder?
Great fight.
Joshua against Wilder. Simon's alongside me, Your Excellency. What do you think of that? Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder. He's saying he would like to see that. Would you?
I can understand why people would want to see it. I mean, I'd like to see Joshua fight someone like Bakoli. I think there's real jeopardy in that fight. I know we've got a bet on that, Spencer, and I don't want to lose that bet. But I'd like to see Joshua fighting someone that was at the front of their career. Potentially.
Yeah, can I answer, Simon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we finished the deal with Bakoli against the Nigerian fighters. Gogba or something like this.
Ajogba, yeah.
Ajogba, yes. We finish it. They must do it because it is mandatory for the IBF.
For the IBF,
Then after that, we are open to see Joshua also against Piccoli. Me, I want to see this fight, right? I want to see it, but you know where I want to see it?
In Africa.
I want to see it in Africa, yeah.
How are you finding the boxing industry? I mean, you've got a very focused mindset. You have very clear agendas of what you want to achieve for your country and what your population demographics look like. How are you finding the landscape of boxing and all the different factions of it? The fighters, the promoters, the governing bodies.
It is very big headache, and Frank can understand. It is very big headache, but it is useful for us now. A lot of people knowing about the Riyadh season through the boxing and what we are doing in the boxing, and now in the middle to announce nearly what I say to you from the beginning, the ideas of the league.
Yeah.
Yes, you had mentioned that before. A US league and a UK league, would that be right? Fighters fighting in each.
Yeah, we will start with the US and let's see from there what is happening. Now also at the same time, we are discussing with Queensberry and Matchroom to have a different level of relationship. I cannot say any more, but Frank and the people in Matchroom also can understand what I mean.
Your Excellency, you were saying you're going to be speaking to Frank Warren, or you hope to before you leave London. You could speak to him now. Frank, is there anything you'd like to ask His Excellency while you're on live with us?
Frank, remember Simon there.
I know he's there. The fight I'd like to see Joshua in, I'd like to see him box Lawrence Okoli. Because that's Queensberry v Matchroom.
You know who's I want to see, Frank? I want to see Otama being the youngest world heavyweight champion. I just know information yesterday about his sparring with Dubois, and the information is amazing. We want these fighters that will be the next star for England and for the world, all the world.
That's why we invested in him when he was 15 years of age and signed him.
You have the strongest fighters team. You have the strongest fighter teams. Yeah,
we do. We're blessed with talent. We got some great fighters, and we're just well, as you know, all we want to do is we're all of the same mind. We want to put all these big fights on and see who's the best. Let the fight the best.
Yeah.
And Riyadh season's been brilliant for making a lot of that happen, no doubt about it.
Frank, I know that you were talking about Moses becoming the youngest ever world heavyweight champion. I think he has until May the 19th to do that. Just a little one here. Could Kubrat Pulev be an option? He's the WBA regular champion. Could that fight happen maybe before May the 19th?
Who knows? We've got to keep our options open, Spence, and if we do it, you'll be the first to know.
Thank you,
sir. At the moment, we've got a lot of things on which we're working.
Frank, if it is available, let's do it.
Your Excellency, one thing. I mean, I've met you. I've been in Riyadh and I've met you, and it's clear to see that what you say you're going to do, you very much attempt to do. You by and large do exactly what you set out to do. Have you enjoyed your time working in boxing thus far and making these huge fights? Are you in it for the long term?
Yes, because I am fan. Even my wife said to me a lot, please rest, because we work a lot. But as a fan, I am very happy because imagine if your boss can support you and let you do the great fight you want to see as a fan. Thanks God, I have my boss support me in this, and this is and trust what we are doing. And I think we are, me and all the people involved in this, Frank, Eddie, Spencer, Bob Arm, everyone involved in, were very happy, and we are making history now. And I think also on the numbers, as I said, from like this time last year when I called you, in America, the boxing was number 14 sport. Now, in the last time I checked before 2 months, it became number 9. And I think now is much better also. And it is almost number 2 in UK. If we continue like this, I think boxing will get back great again.
Okay. Before you leave us, I have one final question for you. What would be your dream fight to make? Of any fight, what is a fight that you would love to say, we made that?
Actually, if we have a time, I want to see in the future Toma against Usyk. If we have a time, if Usyk doesn't retire, and also Tyson against Joshua, of course, and also Crawford against Canelo.
Wow, those would be 3 great fights.
And also Inoue against Ball.
Against
That's
Nick
a
Ball.
great fight.
Wow, that's a great fight, Frank, isn't it?
That's a great fight, but I'm going to disappoint you because when Daniel Dubois fights Usyk, he will get his revenge. But young Moses and Daniel, what a great British fight that will be.
Yeah, will be the huge. If we build it right, it can be something similar to Joshua and Tyson.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Your Excellency, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
I hope to see Simon in the fight of April.
In April, yeah, that's going to be in London, right?
Yeah,
for Eubank Jr.
Yes,
against.
I'm sure Frank will invite me, Turkey.
I will invite you.
I've got you a lovely suit.
Frank will not invite you, but I will invite you.
For you. Oh, that would be brilliant. Eubank Jr. against Benn. Your Excellency, Turkey Al Sheikh with us live this lunchtime. Well, we enjoyed that. The somewhat unexpected arrival on the show of Turki Al-Sheikh, who's here in London and soon to be heading back to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But saying there, Spencer, just before you leave us, that 3 big fights, the 3 big dream fights he'd love to make, Canelo Crawford, AJ Fury, and Moses Itoma against Alexander Usyk.
Well, how big would that last one be? Moses Itoma versus Alexander Usyk. Could we get that in 2025? Yeah, you know, you've just got to congratulate him on his success in boxing. You know, taking the politics away from it, making these big fights happen. Who would have thought we've got Benn Eubank over the line? There was a big problem there with percentages, splits, a lot of egos on the line, but Turki Al-Sheikh made that happen in Riyadh season. So, yeah, congratulations on that one.
Spencer, thank you very much. We're both curious as to why he always wants to have Simon on the scene. I don't get it.
I can't work it out.
No,
I can't work it out.
I don't get it. We'll get there.
The mystique of Simon Jordan,
don't you?
Spencer, thank you very much indeed for the part you played in that. Time now for us to round up finally one of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business.
Simon Jordan's Football Business Roundup on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Join Tesco Mobile and get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. For applicable terms and verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
Simon, it's
cut the boxing hour short, did we?
We cut it short, yeah. And off Spencer goes into the afternoon. What we do know here is that Chelsea are in negotiations with the Premier League to agree a financial settlement for secret payments related to transfers made during the ownership era of Roman Abramovich.
Yes.
The Times is on top of this. You're not surprised to hear Chief Sports Reporter Martin Ziegler is pursuing this. The Times revealed back in 2023, I think it was, that the Premier League was investigating alleged irregular payments related to Willian and Samuel Eto'o being signed by the clubs, in 2013.
Disclosed. The reasons why they were investigating them is because Chelsea disclosed them.
Right.
Chelsea's new ownership model disclosed them. Chelsea's new ownership model kept a contingency back from whatever they paid Abramovich or wherever the money's going, because it's not supposed to be going to Abramovich, is it? I think it's still being held, that money. And there was a contingency held back based upon anything that came out.
Right.
Now, Chelsea's new ownership disclosed that information. Otherwise, this information would never have been known.
Bullying Igbali revealed that we're aware of
every
this.
circumstance when it comes to punishment has aggravating factors and mitigating factors. The aggravating factor in this instance is it was done. The mitigating factor is it wasn't done by the ownership.
Right. So does this mitigate them?
Well, it does and it does. It does and it doesn't, because Chelsea Football Club continues to exist. It isn't Rangers that were then scrapped, reformed as a new company and came up from the bottom again. It's Chelsea Football Club. So there's an argument that some people would like to advance that actually it's a legacy of Chelsea Football Club. It should be consequenced that way. But no one would have ever known anything about it. And by the way, the only reason there is an ownership change is because the government intervened and assets were taken from so-called Putin sympathisers.
Yes.
Which allegedly
at
Roman
that time,
Abramovich won.
allegedly.
So you've got a sanctioned change of ownership. As a result of that sanctioned change of ownership, you've got a new ownership that inherits things that they never did, but they didn't have to disclose, and they've subsequently disclosed. So that's a mitigating factor.
Yeah.
So in the instances of consequences, and not because it's Chelsea and I defend Chelsea, or it's Tottenham and I defend Tottenham, because I try to provide a balanced argument rather than a biased one. I don't think it merits points. I think they'll take a financial sanction. I think that's probably fair. Because you're visiting the sins of a father on a son that didn't want them, and ultimately you're visiting the sins on a business that's bought the football club out of a conflicted period of time when the football club's entire existence, don't forget, they shut down the financial resources of this football club, weren't allowed to take any money, weren't allowed to receive any income, weren't allowed to sell any tickets when this football club was being sold between one ownership model and another. So the fact is, the mitigating circumstances, which is always a factor in any consideration, is how did you approach this subject matter and what was the reaction to it? Well, we told you something we didn't need to tell you.
Right.
So it has to be considered that way.
And that would, and therein lies the area of mitigation that we're in. But Chelsea, if they are in talks, as we believe them to be, over a financial settlement rather than a points deduction, is that necessarily fair? Because we've seen Forest suffering a points deduction. We've seen Everton suffer a points deduction. And here we have it, even though Bullying Igbali made it clear, look, we're aware of this, just flagging this up. This happened in the Abramovich time. Well, that's all well and good.
Sure.
But what happened to Everton and Forest, should the same not happen to Chelsea, even although Bowley and Igbali flagged it up in terms of punishment?
Well, you can make that argument, and it's a reasonably decent argument. And it's reasonably decent to suggest that based upon the fact that if Everton and Nottingham Forest didn't accept the consequences, they didn't accept the ramifications of breach, right? And they were in control, the incumbent management that was not accepting and defending the breach, or the incumbent management that made the decisions. This is a completely different dynamic. This is a group of owners that had nothing to do with the ownership of this football club in a period of time where you ask yourself how these things happen. I told you this on a number of occasions, that ultimately the transparency of football and agents and all that goes around them perhaps needs to be considered, because these are payments that are being made to players that I'm pretty damn sure that agents would have known about.
Yeah.
But here we are in a situation where Everton and Nottingham Forest, and I felt it was unfair on Nottingham. Of course it was unfair on Nottingham Forest. You shouldn't be carrying the legacy of the financial challenges you've got in the Championship into the Premier League. You're a Premier League football club. It's grotesquely unfair. But that's one set of rules. This is mitigation. And the mitigation is that we had no visibility of this. We had no necessity, besides integrity, to disclose this. So that has to be baked in. And the consequences, I think, are fairer economically than they are in points decisions. And I'm sure that Everton fans and Nottingham Forest fans will argue against it. But if they were in the opposite position, they'd probably say, well, what's it got to do with Marinakis?
Yeah. They would back their own owners in a similar situation. You're right.
Is that my sponsored feature done?
What we do know is Chelsea are in talks to avoid a points penalty. That was a roundup of football's top business stories for Tesco Mobile for Business.
Simon Jordan's Football Business Roundup on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Join Tesco Mobile and get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. For applicable terms and verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
Well, that was quite a show. We always say expect the unexpected. From myself, Jim White, Simon Jordan, Emmanuel Petit, Spencer Oliver, Frank Warren. Oh, yeah. And the man who's brought us all those big fights that we've been watching, His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh. Thank you. And we're coming up to 1.